I wanted to change my locks. I wanted a good night's sleep. Security would always let him into the house no matter what I asked them. No matter when I begged him to let me know when he was coming over, no matter how much I begged him not to let him in when he was mad or drunk or high. And I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up in a panic. I was losing hair. I was losing weight. I got really sick. I had shingles. I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up in a panic attack.
Can you see me now, Allie? God damn. And hopefully my mic is better. Hello. Okay. It looks like I can finally see myself on StreamYard. So amazing. Let's see if this works. StreamYard has honestly been the biggest pain in the butt. Sorry, guys. I'm going to drink a mega pint. Yay! Okay. Hi. If you couldn't see or hear me before, we've had some personal shit hit the fan. I got sick. Marcus had to travel. It's been a hellhole. He's getting married. That's going to be exciting and wonderful when it's here, but it's been a whole friggin' rigmarole. So I have let the Johnny Depp shit kind of just drop. Just because I had a lot going on. Also, if you didn't notice, although we did warn you last week, we did not have a new episode of Deep Diving Dell'Olios this week, mainly because the wedding is coming up. We have had a lot on our plate, so don't worry. We have another episode in the works. We just have not been able to put it all together. So the 9/11 content is coming back, but because I had let the Johnny Depp stuff kind of drop off, and this is the 1-year anniversary of the verdict, I wanted to pop on and look at this tonight. I'm going to back up this like track of Amber Heard. Thank you so much, Allie, for checking in with me because I'm like, what is going on? Because the StreamYard was not allowing me anything. So let me back up real quick to what Amber said. We're going to just replay it because I don't know if you guys could see it or hear it. And then I kind of want to go through it a little bit. Let's back it up. This has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about tonight. This came up this week on my feed on Twitter, and I was like, I had totally blacked this portion of her I blacked out a lot of her testimony because it was so crazy. And like I said, I've been researching this case for over 3 years now, so I have a pretty good handle on the information, and everything she said was just a bold-faced lie, and this is a great example of that.
Why did you ask for a domestic violence temporary restraining order? I wanted to change my locks. I wanted to change my locks. I wanted a good night's sleep. Security would always let him into the house no matter what I asked them. No matter when I begged him to let me know when he was coming over, no matter how much I begged him not to let him in when he was mad or drunk or high. And I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up in a panic. I was losing hair. I was losing weight. I got really sick. I had shingles. I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up in a panic attack. I had panic attacks all the time.
So that's her explaining why she felt like she had to get a temporary restraining order from Johnny. That she did on the week of May in 2016. And that was when, at the end of that week, that's when you see that infamous photo of her coming out of the courtroom with that bruise on her face that we heard in court. It had been called in for TMZ to go and capture that bruise and that she would turn her face in order to get that bruise on camera. So this is her explaining why she wanted that restraining order from Johnny. And of course, we know this incident is the incident where she alleges that he wound up and threw a phone and it hit her in the face. And so I found this testimony interesting listening to it again this week, just because number one, there's no medical records of her getting shingles. So that I mean, it's just, that's interesting in and of itself. But what she claims is that security would not allow, like they would just let Johnny in all the time. The apartment, the people that worked at the apartment, everyone would just let him do it. So she needed this restraining order. Number one, I want to say, as a little girl growing up in a household with a very abusive father, restraining orders do jack shit. In fact, the police officer that was dealing with my mother getting a restraining order, he said, hey, you can have this. It ain't going to stop him if he returns. So that's just one thing. But number two, I get that she wants it. But however, so that week that she filed the restraining order, her lawyers also sent Johnny's team a letter. And in the letter, and I'm pretty sure I have it. Hold on. Let me stop sharing my screen and I will show you the letter. In the letter, she wanted a few things. She wanted the car, some pendant light support, a few other things like that. But she also wanted 3 out of the 5 penthouses. Just 3 out of 5 penthouses. And he owned all 5 penthouses on that floor. So that's interesting to me because he's still going to have access to those floors if he owns 2 of those penthouses. So it just screams like BS. I have it right here. You can see here, it said Johnny to continue to make all payments of and any encumbrances thereon for 849 South Broadway, penthouses 1, 3, and 5. Johnny to continue paying mortgage, utilities associated therewith. Okay, so she wants those 3 penthouses that her and her friends were living in. She does not claim for penthouses 2 and 4. That's not something she wants. I find that very interesting. And not to mention, this was also the week that Johnny was texting between himself and Paige Heard, Amber's mother, and they were talking about how Amber felt like she had to file that restraining order. She had to do it because of her lawyers, not because of Johnny, because her lawyers were pressuring her to. It's all the lawyers. They're getting involved in all of this, Johnny. And so that it had nothing to do with her not feeling safe, everything to do with her lawyers advised her to do this. And then you also get into the next text messages between herself and Johnny, where she is saying, we can do or undo this as we see fit. I thought you had filed, as in I thought you had filed for divorce. I'm pretty sure we've talked about those text messages on here before, but if not, I can always pull up those receipts. I don't have them right now, but they do exist. I absolutely promise you. But yeah, it had nothing to do with her safety, as she claimed, and everything to do with she thought she would be homeless. That's according to what Paige said to Johnny. She thought she would be homeless if she didn't file the TRO, and she filed for divorce. And so that is why she supposedly did it, according to Paige, but I'm pretty sure that's probably what Amber told Paige was the situation. And as we've looked at this before, if you've been on my TikTok for any length of time, we know that Amber was also abusive to her mother, allegedly, and her sister. So I just thought that was like an interesting thing to revisit at the top of this, because that testimony struck me as so insane this week. I was just like, oh, really, Amber? You had to? That's so crazy. But anyways, we left off at a really crazy part of the weeks of the Johnny Depp trial. As I started it today, trying to figure out what TikTok we were on, I was like, oh, this was a good one. So let's have a look at this real quick. Okay. And when I talk about being out of pocket, this is the kind of shit I was so out of pocket with it. I was in court with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard today, and today we learned how true this text was that Johnny sent to one of his friends after finding out that Amber had been cheating on him with Elon Musk since March of 2015. Because not only did they help Amber perjure herself again, but they objected so many times today, they forgot they weren't supposed to object to themselves.
Damage to Mr. Depp's hand while you were there on March 8th, correct?
Dr. Kipper told me he sustained an injury on one of his fingers.
Objection, hearsay.
You asked the question.
Oh.
Next question.
Okay, he said he sustained an injury to his finger.
Yes.
So today was Johnny's last day on the stand. We start off with Amber's lawyer, Rottenborn, finishing off his cross-examination of Johnny. Basically meant he read a bunch of text to Johnny and then didn't get Johnny to elaborate at all, just said, did you write this? And Johnny's like, yeah. And then played like 2-second audio clips, which didn't really give anyone context to what these audio clips were about. Rottenborn then brought up a text where Johnny said he didn't like that Amber was going to a coffee meeting, to which I was like, what's a coffee meeting? And Johnny said that too. But then when he got a chance to elaborate on the text, he said, I think we had plans that night, and that was why I was so mad about this meeting, as Rottenborn was trying to allege that Johnny wanted to control Amber and didn't want her in movies anymore. And Johnny responded to that allegation of wanting to control his wife's career with this.
It's not about her doing films. How do you think she got Aquaman, sir?
But then Johnny's lawyers took over for their redirect, where they got to clarify a few things that Rottenborn tried to go over the past couple of days, and were able to close out with this emotional statement.
Amber, I lost a fucking finger, man. Come on. I had a mineral can of mineral spirits thrown in my nose.
You can please tell people that it was a fair fight and see what the jury and judge think. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence, and yes. I know it's a fair fight. It seems how many people believe or side with you.
And what did you say in response when Miss Heard said, tell the world, Johnny, tell them Johnny Depp, Johnny Depp, a man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence?
I said yes. I am.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
But then it was the couple's house manager, Ben King, who had managed the couple's house in Australia, who went on the stand. And this is where the perjury comes in. Because if you guys have been following me for any length of time, you know that Amber Heard is alleging that there was a 3-day hostage situation that happened in that house. Amber stating in court documents that this hostage situation began for her on March 3rd, 2015, when she arrived in Australia, and then carried on for 3 days after. Only problem is now they're saying she didn't arrive in Australia until March 5th. And Ben King said in his statement today that he saw the couple later in the evening on March the 6th. And if you're keeping up, you know that this is the incident where Johnny lost part of his finger. And he wouldn't be treated at the ER until March the 8th. So not only is the math not mathing, Amber, but why was Johnny the only one in the ER that day? I was in court with Johnny Depp and So this was a wild day in court. The Ben King's testimony and them objecting to Ben King was hilarious, but also wild because Ben King's testimony also did dismiss not only the dates that Amber said, but he was in and out of that house when she supposedly was going through this hostage situation and didn't see any of it. So that is wild to me. And that was the first time we had ever heard that someone else had been in the house. And we would later find out that Dr. Kipper also had been in and out of that house during the time that she was in that hostage situation. And her story has changed over 5 times now concerning what that hostage situation was. I've gone through it many times on my TikTok, and I know we've talked about it on here in the earlier episodes. It almost like hurts my head to revisit the Australia incident. It's bananas. But I have always loved that text that Johnny sent about how she sucked Elon Musk's crooked dick, and now she's got a bunch of shitty lawyers. And I am like, oh, that's good, because she did have some shitty fucking lawyers, man. Elaine, God love her, man. Like, the only good lawyer on that team was Rottenborn. And I mean, love him or hate him. Most people hate him. I hate him too, but that's what makes him a good lawyer. I know this week got crazier. So let's head over to the next one, because and the thing that sucks about this too, I had written out a bunch of notes on this week because I was going to make this an edited revisiting come to Jesus of all of these weeks, right? And then I got ill and all of this noise, but I've lost those notes. So I know I had like a lot more, but as we continue on, we'll see. Also, I think this is the next one. I was in court with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp today. And let me make sure. Yeah, Dr. Curry. Okay. Boy, was it a day. Today, it was Amber's lawyer, Elaine, questioning everyone. And that's always a treat in and of itself. I miss her.
So the question that was asked was, because you brought muffins, you said, from your husband, right? You gave those to Ms. Heard, correct?
May I clarify what occurred so that we can stop talking about the muffins?
But before the muffin saga of 2022 and who bought what for Amber Heard, we got to hear from Johnny's island manager, Tara Roberts. Tara was present on the island every time that the couple was there. And during several of these times, Amber has claimed that Johnny got violent with her, but Tara said she never saw any injury on Amber, and she said she often would hug Amber. Of course, then Elaine, the great makeup artist of our time, started to ask Tara if she knew Amber Heard's makeup routine. And of course, Tara answered no. And then Elaine said, well, there's sun in the Bahamas, isn't there? There's sun everywhere in the world, Elaine. And she started to ask Tara about sunscreen and whether or not Amber Heard had a skin condition. Tara saying she wasn't aware of a skin condition, and Elaine saying, well, you didn't ask. And Tara responded, no, I wouldn't have asked if someone had a skin condition. It was all very bizarre. But Tara, like many of the other witnesses, did claim that she saw Amber being aggressive towards Johnny, saying there was one incident on the island in December of 2015 where she watched Amber chase Johnny, stand in the way of his vehicle so he couldn't leave, and claimed she even heard an exchange between the couple where Johnny says, you hit me with a can. This is allegedly that can of mineral spirits that you can hear on audio recordings where Johnny says it hit the bridge of his nose. And this kind of behavior by Amber was backed up by Dr. who was the psychologist that was hired by Johnny Depp's team in order to evaluate Ms. Heard. Dr. Curry testified that from the 12 hours she spent directly with Ms. Heard, along with reviewing health documents, court documents, everything, you name it, that has to do with Amber Heard, that Amber Heard did not suffer from PTSD, actually diagnosing her with borderline personality disorder along with histrionic personality disorder. Everything she said in court today lined up with what everyone has said so far about Amber Heard's personality, who she is, and how she treats those around her, especially those she claims to love. Quickly switching emotions, the indulgent, self-centered, the constant need for attention, and the perpetual fear of abandonment to the point that she will turn to violence if she is scared she will be left.
Always take off. I can't trust you when you do that.
Baby.
I have no trust. That's
Baby.
why I freak out so fast these
Baby.
days. Is that I assume you're splitting.
Baby. I can't be. I can't just stand there and take the punches.
And our final witness today was Officer Melissa Sanas, who responded to the couple's penthouses after a lackluster 911 call on May 21st, 2016.
20. Somebody was being physically assaulted? Yeah. 7 seconds. A woman. Who was hurting her? A man. Was that her boyfriend? A man. That's all I know.
Melissa claiming when she arrived at the penthouse, she saw no evidence that this took place and that she did not believe that Amber Heard was a victim of domestic violence. I was in court with. So that lackluster 911 call, you can hear it in full online. It is, I mean, it speaks volumes to me about the urgency that Amber's friends felt like she was in. That's concerning the May incident as well that we talked about, where Amber alleges that Johnny threw a phone at her face. She also alleged that he hit her. But when her friends came into the room and when Johnny's security came into the room, all of them testified that they were more than 10 feet away. And she had been screaming, stop hitting me, Johnny, stop hitting me, Johnny, when they all came in. So, I mean, it's just a little strange. But that situation, they said that the whole apartment was totally tarnished, and that we're going to get into that with the verdict when it comes to Adam Waldman's statements, because what Amber did win money in this case because she countersued Johnny for $100 million, and she only won one of her statements that she said was defamation. And that statement was made by Adam Waldman, talking about how her friends had roughed up the place. And I've talked about that and how that goes into her favor. We'll get to that here shortly. But the police arrived that day and they did not see anything that was pictured. And what would later be pictured and brought into court, even that wine bottle that was tipped over and rolling around the floor that she took the photo of and that she used for 2 separate incidents in court. So that's interesting in and of itself. You're also going to see, I guess, kind of like advertisements for my old podcast, ITT. I just want to let you all know, if you were listening to me on that, we're no longer filming that, and it supports me if you're here. So I just wanted to kind of like let you all know that, because I know I've had a few questions on what's going on with ITT and like all of that. We did release a final episode, but we are no longer filming ITT. So if you do want to continue supporting me, I would love to have you here. Just wanted to let you know that, because there is going to be that kind of up to the side there. But yeah, what a wild little turn of events. And Dr. Curry and the Muffin Man. I don't know why Elaine felt she had to ask about the muffins so much. I understand she was trying to see if whether Dr. Curry's husband knew that she was taking care of Amber Heard, and that like it was supposed to show like a breach in her own ethics as a psychiatrist, but it was ridiculous. Anyways, we'll move on to the next one. No, you're definitely right. I definitely have
This was when
people were saying I wasn't there in court. So I made a video about how I definitely was there in court and I was freezing my fucking ass off every day outside.
So I was in court with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp today. And today we heard from all the officers who responded to 911 calls made by Amber's friends. I say friends because let's let the audio speak for itself.
Who was hurting her? A man. Was that her boyfriend? A man. That's all I know.
17 seconds.
Did you witness it? No, I happen to know that it's happening, and I just need to remain anonymous. Okay, you can remain anonymous then, but I have to be certain what's going on. How do you know this is going on, though? She told me. Oh.
Can I just pause it here and say, like, oh my God, if I thought my friend was being beaten within an inch of her life, which is what was alleged, you know, all the time, and I thought like this was the fight of a lifetime, like I'm not calling like this and like NDAs be damned. I'm yelling at the police. You have to get up there right now. Here's her name. It's Amber Heard. Her husband's Johnny Depp. Like I would not be giving one shit. And these friends, and I believe this is Raquel, even though they deny that it's Raquel. Everybody says it's Io. This isn't Io. Also, she says she's downstairs at one point in time. Io was in New York during this. So like, these are the holes in the stories that the media just skips over. I don't know why the media, anyways.
Okay, so this is a friend of yours?
All of the officers that we heard from today, and there were 2 sets of officers that responded to this incident, reported that they saw no evidence of a crime and that they did not believe that Amber Heard that evening was a victim of domestic abuse. Which is very interesting to me because Amber and all of her friends have alleged that Johnny Depp did this damage to his own penthouses before he left that evening. Especially notice the wine in the hall and the entranceway, which is extremely interesting to me because
that photo, she used it for 2 events. That photo, anyways, I might get into it in this one. I'm going in blind in these TikToks as well. This is like a whole revisit for me too.
Amber Heard's old friend Raquel Pennington claimed in her witness statement they didn't have time to clean it up before the first set of officers arrived. Yet none of the officers claimed that they saw this damage in the house. The second set of officers even had body cams on, and there's not even a sign that anyone tried to clean anything up yet. Then we heard from Alejandro, who worked at the front desk of the couple's penthouses. And guys, Alejandro's done with this case, done with Johnny, done with Amber, and done with us. To the point that at the end of his deposition, he drove away. The man wants nothing more to do with this case. He was basically just there to tell us he saw no injuries on Amber the week of May 20th to 27th. And then to confirm with Amber's lawyer, Elaine, that he did not know Amber's makeup routine. How often are we going to badger witnesses about her fucking makeup routine? Then we heard from talent agent Christian Carino, who originally was Amber's talent agent and became friends with her and then eventually Johnny. Christian went on to claim that the reason that Johnny lost his role in Pirates 6 was because of Amber's allegations against him. However, he also claimed that he never saw any violence between the couple, and he also said that neither party ever claimed violence against the other to him.
I wanted to pause it here and point out Christian Carino, number one, found out this past month, him and Lady Gaga at one point in time were engaged, which I just thought was like an interesting fun fact about him. But also, this is the man, this is the friend of Amber and Johnny's who would set up that clandestine meeting between the two of them the summer after they had filed for divorce. So the summer after Amber's filed, after she has her restraining order, she still has it in place when they meet up. And the reason they met up is Amber was begging to meet up with Johnny. There are text messages between herself and Christian for months asking, does he still love me? I need to see him. Can you wish him happy birthday for me? Because Johnny's birthday is June 9th. She was harassing Christian about seeing Johnny. She met up with him, and we've heard audio about that before. If you look back at the old YouTube videos that we've got here, even, they met up. And she felt safe enough to be in a hotel room alone with him. I find it very interesting.
It was also the couple's mutual friend who set up that private meeting between Johnny and Amber in summer of 2016, when Amber still had that temporary restraining order placed against Johnny Depp. Christian stating between text messages with him and Amber that Amber loved and missed Johnny, and she was hoping to set this meeting up to reconcile their marriage. But Johnny was under the impression that she was going to talk about dropping the false allegations against him, saying in his own testimony a few days ago that he realized he had been lured to this meeting with Amber under false pretenses. And how he couldn't understand that someone like Amber, who had claimed such horrible things had happened to her by his hand, would want affection from him. And finally, we heard from Laura Wasser, who was one of Depp's attorneys during his divorce. And honestly, because it was two lawyers going at it, I feel like it was a lot of legal mumbo jumbo that none of us could really understand. But you guys, it was Elaine questioning her, so it was interesting to say the least. So I was in court with Amber Heard, and
It was interesting to watch Elaine, ridiculous lawyer, talk to a real lawyer. I don't know. That's terrible to say. Also, I noticed in my comments, I don't know about the Shay at all, but a lot of people didn't realize Johnny had been fired from Parts of the Caribbean. A lot of people didn't. Probably going to hit that video maybe even next. And I was really shocked by that because I was like, yeah, that's what this defamation case is kind of basically about, is that he lost work over her accusations, and her accusations were not factual.
you guys, I was in court with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard this morning.
Oh yeah. So I was trying, you can see I'm a little disheveled, and you'll see as the video progresses, I get more makeup and more hair done. I was flying to Las Vegas that night from Virginia. So I went to court that morning, and as I was sitting there, I just realized like my hair was feeling more and more dirty. And I was like, I need to go home, to the hotel. I've been living out of hotels at that point, and like really shower before I go to Vegas and like do things with real people that I know. So I left halfway through, but this was one of the most exciting days while I was in court. I'm pretty sure it got a little, no, I'm lying, because I watched it when I was back at the hotel and it was still pretty exciting. So yeah.
Oh, he might win this thing. So remember, Johnny is suing Amber because she wrote this op-ed in December of 20.
And I'm sorry, I'll play myself in a minute, but like I was so excited after this day because I've told you all before, I thought this was a really stupid legal move on Johnny's part for him to file for defamation against Amber over this. It's very hard for A-list celebrities to win libel and defamation cases, hence the United Kingdom court case. And because tabloid newspapers, I mean, they can say anything about you. And same goes for this, except she's his wife. So that's a little bit more, or was his wife. I guess it gives a little bit more credence to what she says. You know what I mean? And then therefore that gives a bit more credence to him suing her. And, but this was the day we all kind of realized, holy shit, he really very well could win this. And it was amazing.
2018 for the Washington Post. And that article was meant to introduce Amber as a new spokesperson for the ACLU, where she's apparently an ambassador for women's rights with a focus on gender-based violence. First, I thought, that's weird, but then I realized that maybe it's because she doesn't have a bias on which gender she assaults.
Out of pocket.
I'm going to punch you, by the way. I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
She's still a current spokesperson for them, just by the way. Johnny is alleging in court that this op-ed that Amber wrote defamed him, especially since he lost his role as Captain Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean just 2 days after this was published. Meanwhile, Amber and her team say that it doesn't name Johnny, and Johnny argues back, it doesn't have to. It's obviously about me. But today we heard from someone from the ACLU themselves, and if I'd been on the jury, it's case closed. In court today was played the video deposition of Terrence Doherty. Now he's the senior corporate counsel for.
It suddenly gets so quiet because I was so embarrassed. I'm in the Dulles airport. And it's so weird to me that I was in and out of Dulles so much this year because of our 9/11 content on here. Because 9/11, or when that happened, American 77 took off from Dulles, the one that hit the Pentagon. So it's so strange to me now looking at this. But yeah, I'm sitting there and I'm like, filming, but I'm trying to be quiet and not like draw too much attention to myself because I do find it extremely embarrassing to film in public. But anyways,
the ACLU. And they did talk to him about these emails that we spoke a little while ago on between Amber Heard and her ghostwriter for her op-ed, Robin, who are discussing how to go around the marriage, even though they left in blatant proof in the article that it was about him. Then we got to hear about more emails and it was very damning. So the ACLU was having Amber write this op-ed, right? They still had to sell it to a publisher and they didn't know where it was going to go. And these emails were talking about how they wanted to leverage it with the release of Aquaman, knowing that it was going to be a blockbuster. And it seems like they were very excited when it was sold to the Washington Post. However, shortly after its release, they got very, very stressed out. One of the emails read aloud in court today said, quote unquote, "So much for not mentioning JD." JD meaning Johnny. One of the employees said that she was so stressed out about it and could hardly sleep. She was having nightmares about this op-ed because they knew it was a breach of their NDA. But my favorite email was when they were trying to sell the op-ed to the Washington Post. They were saying it was by Amber Heard, and because no one knows who Amber Heard is, they had to explain. She was beaten up during her brief marriage to Johnny Depp. The even when trying to sell this op-ed to different newspaper companies, some of the emails expressed that they were worried that cutting the marriage out entirely would make it less powerful, less impactful. I just feel really vindicated tonight that the jury has finally seen the emails that we have seen, the stuff that we've been talking about for years. Those emails proving that this op-ed was in fact about Johnny Depp, that the impact of that article, just 2 days after it was published, he was fired from Pirates of the Caribbean. There's so much more to talk to you guys about today. I'll try to do it over the weekend, but I am here in the airport heading to Las Vegas, but I will be back in court on Monday in Virginia. You guys?
I, in fact, was not back in court. I went at our normal time, but by then it became such a shit show. And I actually had a Karen moment outside in the line because I joined my group in line in Fairfax and on Monday morning. And this bitch behind was like, back of the line. And she was like in such a snit, like they were ready to fight. And I was like, these are like my friends. And they were like, doesn't matter. No holding spots. I was like, whatever. So I went to the back of the line and I would think I was they only let 100 in a day. And I think I was 102 or 103. So on Monday, I ended up in the like half holding room. It was fine. It was whatever. I really didn't like, though, at this point in time, we were getting like the super fans in. And like one girl said to me one of the days, she was like, they were asking how many of us had been there for how many days. And I had said I hadn't missed a day. And she was like, God, give some of us a chance to see him. And I'm like, oh, this isn't like a meet and greet like that. I don't know. To me, that felt so weird because I was like, no, I'm like actually attending court to like, I've been following this case. And like, I don't know. I just think it was weird that a lot of people were there just to see him. And I tended to notice as we got further with the defamation suit, it would be super crowded in the morning because everybody wanted to get in. And then half of the crowd would leave by the afternoon because they all had just wanted to see him and didn't realize that like, oh no, we're actually in court. Like this is like pretty serious. But yeah, this Thursday where I was flying to Vegas, this was so exciting. I remember all of us were holding hands as Johnny Depp supporters. Like I was with Real Laura B. Oh, I can't remember who else was there with me, but I remember just holding Real Laura B's hands. We were holding hands on all sides and we were like, oh my God, because those emails that Terrence dropped from the ACLU between them and the Washington Post and Amber Heard and her ghostwriter, all of it outlined exactly what Johnny needed in order to win this trial, to win the lawsuit. And I was like, holy shit, like, here we go. So let's skip ahead a little bit. I know.
So let's talk about why Elon Musk is at the center of this court battle right now. Because a lot of you have seemed to have forgotten that they dated at one point. Reportedly, Amber Heard met Elon Musk when she was filming Machete Kills in 2012. Now, the two of them, especially Elon, has claimed that their relationship didn't start until after she was divorced from Johnny Depp. However, employees of the penthouses where Amber and Johnny lived as a couple while they were married reported that as early as March 2015, Amber was sneaking Elon Musk into the penthouses while Johnny was filming Pirates of the Caribbean 5 in Australia. And yes, if you've been following along, that's less than a month after Amber and Johnny were married. And during the same month that Amber threw a vodka bottle at Johnny Depp that severed the tip of his right middle finger. And this affair went on for a while. There's photos of Elon and Amber inside the elevators at the penthouses. And they dated publicly for a while after Johnny and Amber split. And during her relationship with Johnny Depp, Amber Heard had many of her friends living in the couple's penthouses with them, totally free of rent. One of those friends was Raquel Pennington and her husband, Josh Drew. Her husband, Josh Drew, had this to say in one of his video depositions.
Did she ever tell you in words or substance while Amber was still married to Johnny Depp that the three of them, Amber Heard, Elon Musk, and Cara Delevingne, spent the night together? Yes. So they were having a three-way affair, correct? My understanding, yes.
However, the affair isn't the main reason that Elon's name keeps being dragged into court. As we've talked about before on here, Amber Heard had promised her entire divorce settlement to charity. And in interviews across the world, she claimed that she had already donated that money. And also in her witness statements that the entire amount of my divorce settlement was donated to charity. But as we talked about on here before, there's no receipts of this. But on Thursday, we got to hear from the senior corporate counsel of the ACLU, one of the charities she was supposed to donate to, about where the money is. Now, according to Terrence, the ACLU was aware that Amber planned to make these payments in installments, $350,000 worth annually. This was supposed to go over the next 10 years. Amber herself never signed this pledge form and only made one of these payments of $350,000 worth. Taryn stating that the ACLU was hoping and expecting to receive the $3.5 million, but the fact that the pledge form wasn't signed did cause some doubt on that. And he wasn't wrong, because even though there were further installments made on behalf of Amber by Elon Musk, and one installment on Amber's behalf from Johnny Depp himself, to which Amber's lawyers claimed that he was trying to reap a tax benefit on. Johnny claiming that under their divorce settlement and NDA, she wasn't supposed to tell anyone what she was doing with the money, whether she donated it to charity or not. So he just thought he would make it easier on her and donate it directly for her. But even with these payments from Elon and Johnny, she still owes over $2.2 million to the ACLU. Has not made a payment towards that since December of 2018, which, funny enough, was the same year that her and Elon split. So I don't think they're going to be getting that money anytime soon. And the other charity that Amber was supposed to donate to, the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, has also not received their funds yet, but we haven't heard from them yet in court. So let's talk about why.
I don't remember if we heard from them or not yet. And like a lot of, I know Allie just commented, and
Elon Musk is at the center of this court battle right now.
Hold on.
A lot of you have seemed to.
A lot of, and people commented, you can see in the comment section there, it does look like Elon has a bruise on the side of his face. And that was brought up at the time as well, because Amber is alleged to have abused a lot of her partners. And also, you got to think of it, sometimes people don't see female on male like abuse as abuse, and it is abuse. I've had people tell me that there's no way that Johnny abused Amber because, or that Amber abused Johnny because she's a woman. Just yeah. Yeah. Anyways.
So I was not in the courtroom with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp today, but I still have an update for you. Because listen, y'all, this is turning into a freaking circus. There was a Captain Jack Sparrow impersonator and everything there today. But I was able to get a seat in the overflow room today, so let's go! So first we heard from Travis McGivern, who's still employed by Johnny Depp and has been employed by him for about 9 years. And I have to say, Travis has an iconic chuckle. Like when Johnny's lawyer asked him what was the interaction like between the couple, he was like, it was too good, man. He said the couple seemed good to him with just a few fights until March of 2015. If you remember right, that is when Johnny lost the tip of his right finger. He also bore witness to what we know as the staircase incident, quote unquote. The staircase incident is where Amber says that she was afraid that Johnny was going to push her little sister Whitney down the stairs when they were having a fight about him possibly having an extramarital affair. When, by the way, we would find out that she was already starting her affair with Elon Musk as of March 2015. But anyways, what's that saying? Oh, yeah. People in glass houses should not throw stones. But anyways, Travis witnessed this fight and said that it was actually Amber who was the aggressor, even though he said that at one point Johnny was giving as good as he got verbally. Saying that for a while, Amber had been calling him a deadbeat dad, a fucking wash-up. He said that you name it, she spewed it at him. He also said he witnessed Amber throw a Red Bull can at Mr. Depp. So yeah, she's a thrower, guys.
She's a thrower.
But after he saw Amber punch Johnny, he decided to remove Johnny from the situation. Now, this account is not now backed up by Whitney Heard. However, one of her best friends and ex-employer, Jennifer Howell, did back that account up. Jennifer Howell saying in her witness statement that shortly after this event, Whitney Heard showed up on her doorstep, saying she couldn't live with the couple anymore because Amber was going to kill Johnny, that she didn't know why Johnny was staying with Amber. Jennifer, who was already aware of the abuse that both Whitney and Amber withstood as children from their own father, along with the abuse that Jennifer alleges that Amber was delaying on her sister Whitney, allowed her to stay at Jennifer's house. Jennifer even writing Whitney a letter from the UK trial, begging Whitney Heard not to perjure herself on the stand for her sister. We also heard from Jack Wiggum, who worked as a talent agent with Christian Carino for...
I highly recommend, if anyone ever gets a time, to find that letter. I mean, I have it on my Instagram. You just have to scroll for a while. But find that letter between Jennifer Howell and Whitney. It's a hard read. It's extremely long, but it's just hard emotionally to get through because it is a friend literally begging their other friend to do the right thing. And yeah, and I also find it interesting. Taja Van Ree, Amber Heard's ex, now works with Jennifer Howell. It's interesting. When I saw that, I was like, because Jennifer Howell testified for Johnny. I find it so wild.
For Johnny Depp. We heard from Christian last week. But today, Jack confirmed that they had made a deal with Disney for Pirates of the Caribbean 6 for Johnny to return as Captain Jack Sparrow for over $22 million. That is, they had that deal until 2 days after Amber's op-ed came out. when Disney fired Johnny from being Captain Jack Sparrow. And heartbreaking emails were shown between Christian Carino and Jack about the wake of this news. The email entitled that Captain Jack Sparrow won't return in the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And one of them says, "What do we do?" And the other one responds, "Were we told this officially by Disney?" Jack saying he had countless meetings to try to resolve this matter, but in the end, there was nothing he could do. So I didn't get to talk about everything I wanted to talk about today. And
so, yeah, like Ali said, Jennifer Howell has no connection to Johnny. And yes, part of her testimony was denied. I think Jennifer put an explanation at that time because her testimony on what happened with the staircase incident wasn't allowed in. Now, if you watch Jennifer's testimony in the Virginia trial, she is very abrupt, some would say rude, with the lawyers questioning her on both sides. I think she's just pretty well done with this noise. But she has always stood for she says the truth. She's come in and talked about how she saw what from Whitney that Johnny was being abused. Her testimony was admitted in the United Kingdom trial where she talked about the staircase incident and what she heard secondhand from Whitney about it, where she knew that Amber was trying to kill Johnny. It wasn't the other way around. And that was why she had to leave. And that at the time that Johnny's fingertip had been cut off in Australia, when it all came out, apparently Whitney was at work with Jennifer that day. And she said, she's done it now. She's cut off the tip of his fucking finger. So Whitney already knew that it was Amber that did that. So it's really interesting. And then Ali says, I think it's interesting that Amber's team angle was that everyone that cooperated Johnny's side was only doing it because he pays them. That was always their thing, is like, well, how much does he pay you? Or with his sister Christy, it's like, how much does your money go up when he gets signed on things? And Christy had to explain them like 15 times that she's salaried, so it doesn't go up. So yeah, it's very interesting. It's funny. What's funny to me, but not funny, is Whitney is the only one that ever witnessed physical abuse between Amber and Johnny, and it's that staircase incident that she alleges. But she is it was Amber and Johnny and Travis and Debbie Lloyd that were present for that argument, and everyone but Whitney says that Johnny was the one being abused in that situation. But anyways.
So I was in the courtroom with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard today, and y'all, today was wild. Today in court, Amber tried to have the whole entire case dismissed. And then we learned in court from Amber's first witness, who was a psychologist who evaluated her, that we have to be careful of gender stereotypes, especially when it comes to a domestic violence situation. But then she said that women are more...
So yeah, this was the day that started off with Amber's team getting up and saying like, hey, this whole thing should be thrown out. I found out later that that is pretty standard for court cases, for them to get up and be like, there wasn't enough evidence shown that like proves beyond a shadow of a doubt or could go make us go further with this case, so we should just throw it out entirely. Wasn't thrown out at all. I love, that's such a fun interaction to watch. Ben Chu really dug into it. He even pointed at Amber at one point in time, I might play it in this video, that she was the only abuser in the courtroom, and it was so good. I think I played it in like our first episode talking about this on here on Deep Diving Dell'Olios, but this was a wild day.
More reactive to abuse, and men are usually the perpetrators. And as she went on to discuss abuse, she kept talking about the abuser as he and the victim as she. It was very problematic. Especially since we heard from another psychologist last week that was hired by Johnny's team, who also evaluated Amber, Dr. Curry. Dr. Curry was very professional in her statements. She never got worked.
Sorry. I saw Dawn has said that nobody showed up for Amber but paid professionals. And I'm like, yeah. And yet Johnny's team had more to go off with than, oh, what does Miss Heard pay you? Like, we never heard them say that. And it's because they had more evidence than, oh, but she pays you, right? So how much more do you get paid? Like, you want to keep your job, right? Anyways.
Up, which we saw Dr. Hughes get today. And she also didn't make gendered stereotypes at all about the couple. But also, total side note, isn't it interesting that Dr. Curry wore her hair like this? And the very next day, Amber wore her hair like this? Girl. And while we're here, this was Johnny last week, and this was Amber the beginning of this week. Like, there's no way this is a coincidence. But anyways, let's go. So after break this morning, Amber's lawyer started by trying to get the entire case dismissed. We had already heard this was going to happen. Someone reported on it. Also, it's kind of the normal protocol for things. Supposedly, I'm not a lawyer. Amber's lawyer, Rottenborn, argued that all of Johnny's evidence that he'd said so far should be struck from the record, and the case dismissed on Amber's behalf, as the op-ed couldn't have been proven to be written by her, especially the title, which many people have said was written by the Washington Post, but she reposted it on her Instagram and her Twitter. Therefore, to common folk like you or I, it would look like Amber had written it because it says by Amber Heard on it. The judge, though, wasn't buying this, and Ben Chu, Johnny's lawyer, got up. And you guys, Ben Chu spilled some tea, starting his statement by announcing to the court that Amber Heard, and he pointed to her, was the only abuser in the court. Like, yes, go off, Ben. And how without her marriage to Johnny Depp being mentioned, no one would have been interested in her op-ed. Citing the emails that the ACLU used to sell the op-ed to the Washington Post, where they discussed how it was written by Amber Heard, and since no one knows who Amber Heard is, I'm paraphrasing here, but you remember she had that brief marriage to Johnny Depp where he beat her. Ben Chu stating that if it wasn't for the story of Johnny Depp, her article would have ended up in Teen Vogue. Ben, because as Ben said, no one would have been interested in what she had to say. Ben! Like the impulse to cheer in the courtroom when we couldn't. Judge stating that she didn't have enough evidence to rule on anything yet, so the court is going on, baby. Then Amber's first witness, Dawn Hughes, took the stand. She was a clinical psychologist evaluating Amber on Amber's team. And needless to say, it was triggering for a lot of folks. She referred to all abusers as he, as she talked. Not even talking about the couple specifically, but even when she did, she said that Amber didn't have a pattern of anything. It's like everyone's forgotten that this happened. Girlfriend got called out several times for just reading notes, like verbatim reading notes. She also talked a bit about SA allegations, which I talked about on my YouTube channel earlier tonight. But anyways, I'll be back tomorrow when Amber Heard arrives in court looking like this.
Oh my God. Like out of pocket. Should not have. Yeah, Dr. Hughes was a hot fucking mess. That woman, I was so angry when I was leaving that courtroom that day because it didn't matter what scenario she was talking about. The men were always the abusers.
I'm working on my recap for being in court today with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. But
I literally was talking to my boyfriend at that time about like court that day. And he was like, they like said her name totally wrong. And I was like, did I black out for that or what? And I found the fucking clip and I was like, you're kidding.
First off, what the fuck is up with Amber Heard's legal team, you guys?
Your next witness? Your Honor, we'd like to call Laura Amber Heard to the stand. All right. Amber Laura.
Like the secondhand cringe I feel daily in that courtroom is wild.
Will you please state your name?
Since we don't know it.
Amber Laura Heard.
Like, what a hot mess. Anyway, see you guys soon. Bye. I'm working on my recap.
Oh my God.
I was in court with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard today. And today we finish up with the psychologist that Amber's team hired. And Amber Heard took the stand. But first off, can we all touch on how we all knew this side part was bound to happen the day after Dr. Curry's side part? With that being said, let's go. So we started today off with Dr. Hughes' cross-examination by Johnny's lawyers, where they finally called out her gendered bias when it comes to people that are in abusive relationships. And when asked if she believed that men could be victims of domestic abuse as well as women, Dr. Hughes only referred to men that she dealt with in homosexual relationships, and then continued to refer to perpetrators as he and victims as she. Now, she said she was doing this because this was this particular case incident where Johnny was abusive to Amber, but she did this even with generalizations. It just didn't sit right with me yesterday, and it still doesn't today. She also closed out her testimony by saying that Johnny had suffered from physical as well as psychological acts of violence thrust upon him by Miss Heard. So what was the fucking point of this goddamn testimony? And then Amber Laura Heard took the stand, where she began just as her ex-husband did with her childhood, her growing up years, and what led her to Hollywood. She then, just like Johnny, talked about meeting him on the Rum Diary set and how things were platonic between them until the shower kiss scene when Elaine thought it was appropriate to ask this question.
You don't use your tongue if you can avoid it. There's certain things that you do to just maintain a certain line, and it just felt like those lines were blurred. I mean, he grabbed my face and pulled me into him and really kissed me. But we were filming a scene.
Did he use his tongue?
Yes.
What is up with this woman and tongues?
Did you hear him say, I bet you slipped a tongue in there and you liked it?
No.
Elaine, this is a court of law. Amber then started to talk about the first acts of violence between her and Johnny, where she described an incident where Johnny was holding her down by the arm and hitting her in the face, and that she had sent this photo to her mother as evidence, although we didn't see any of the text messages attached to it, and to me it doesn't look like there's any bruising on her face, even though she said that Johnny hit her repetitively. So we'll see what Johnny's team says about this in the cross-examination when they get to it. She also said something that was weird to me as a domestic violence survivor, where she alleged in 2013 she didn't have the strength to confront Johnny about his alcohol problem, kind of insinuating that she later would. As someone who's been in an abusive relationship before, you don't usually end up with more power as it goes on. She then described the first incident of SA that she's alleged between her and Johnny that happened during the Hicksville incident. During this incident, Amber would claim that Johnny searched her everywhere for his blank, saying that while he was doing this, she just looked up and wondered why he was even searching her for this, as she doesn't even do this. Which, Amber girl. Amber's own nurse, Erin Borum, testified that she was addicted to it, and her friends during the UK trial also testified that she would use it. I just really wish Amber would start telling the truth. I was in court with Johnny.
What a bummer to end on, because I think this is too another reason I've been kind of avoiding this series a little bit. My mental health after this trial was so low because I've been essayed, because I have a lot of trauma, and sitting and listening to her when I know not only the other side, not only Johnny's side, but everybody else's testimony, and just being like, are you serious? Also, just by the way, since all the Amber stans love to give credence to the United Kingdom's verdict, which wasn't even between Amber and Johnny, it was between the Sun and Johnny Depp, so a tabloid. The UK judge, he didn't buy the cocaine searching story. He dismissed that as not true. Totally. If you look at the verdict. So that's interesting. But I always love it when she claims she doesn't do drugs, because she does. And that was something that kept coming up in this trial, was Amber would never take accountability for what she had done, whether it be drugs, drinking, hitting Johnny, even doing mundane things. She just wouldn't take accountability. Meanwhile, Johnny would take accountability. Yeah, I fucked up, or yeah, I text that, or yeah, that was me, that happened. And then but doesn't mean that I abused her, and meanwhile, Amber is sitting there trying to look like the golden child, like she never did anything wrong in her entire life. MDMA, I don't even know her. And it's no, girl, you do. Your fucking wedding invitation is drugs and dancing later. Stop. Anyways. None of it, and then yeah, like Ali said, none of it ends up matching up either, and then that's really frustrating and sickening to listening to. And then I take such issue with the way the media has been portraying it. So anyways, we'll go off to the next day.
I was in court with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard this week.
Before we go off to the next day, bringing it back to the lighter part of that day, Elaine, God, I love her, but the tongue thing, Elaine asked for so many details about how Johnny kissed Amber. So many details. And it was so excessive. Oh my God, it was excessive. And then all I kept thinking about was when Thomas Keane, or Wyatt Keane? Keenan Wyatt. I can never get that man's name right. Keenan Wyatt got up on the stand and she just assaulted him with words. Oh, she is like that aunt that learned some bad words and wants to use them for the first time. It hurt.
On Thursday, we heard about just how obsessed Miss Heard is still with Johnny Depp's children. She can't keep their names out of her mouth. It's like no one told her that children should be off limits, even if they're grown-ass adults now.
When I tell you that day, that's the one day I wanted to literally stand up and yell at Amber. I am a child of a very, very, very bad divorce. To hear her talk about his children that are not her children. They are not. Lily Rose and Jack are Vanessa Paradis' children. She should be keeping their name out of her mouth. And say things like, Johnny allowed her to date a 26-year-old man. Guess what? Not your fucking kid, not your fucking problem. And do not bring that into a courtroom where all of Lily Rose is a celebrity in her own right now. And she said that, I'm pretty sure there was objections going on as she started spewing personal information about Lily Rose Depp. And I was so upset about that because you leave the kids out of it. I don't even give a shit if they're adults now. At the time, she was not. We don't know the full truth of it because Amber just was running her mouth about personal matters that are between, oh, I don't know, a father and his daughter, a father, the mother, Vanessa Paradis, and the daughter. Nothing like, and it was like she had something out for Lily Rose because it didn't really hit Jack that much. Her being vindictive about the whole situation. She was never cruel to Jack, never bringing him up, but boy did she love to bring Lily up, and it really pissed me off.
Also saw just how crazy Johnny Depp gets when he goes on a bender. Freaking life of the party, this man. Almost as fun as his ex-wife is. Oh no, wait, here's a better photo of her escapades. We also started mixing up photo evidence. Originally, this photo was for the May 21st incident in 2016. And now it's being shown as the December 2015 incident. Someone on Amber's legal team needs to tell this woman that if she's going to commit perjury, she'd better keep her story straight, especially since we're about to go a week without hearing the rest of it. Good luck, Amby, remembering what you testified to. But with that being said, let's go! We started our day by hopping in right where we left off. Her own account of the incidents that she claimed that Johnny allegedly abused her during. But if you've all been with me for a while, these incidents have changed drastically over the past few years. I mean, on Amber's side, Johnny's account has stayed the same. And at one point in time, Amber was recounting an incident where she said that she thought Johnny was going to throw her little sister down the stairs. And she mentioned Johnny's ex, Kate Moss, and this happened.
Instantly think of Kate Moss and the stairs, and I swung at him. And all of my...
This reaction has me so excited for Depp's cross-examination. Amber also described a new incident between herself and Johnny on a plane where they took blank together. But Johnny got violent with the flight attendant when he thought that she was coming on to Amber, allowing Amber to explain to the court that she never would have asked Johnny for that again.
Before you headed to Australia, what, if any, requests did you make of Mr. Depp for him to get you MDMA?
That's ridiculous.
Why is that ridiculous?
Because I would never, since that time I learned my lesson the hard way on the plane to Russia, I would never do MDMA with him. I'm asking for a problem in that case. Like that, I would never do that.
Never, Amby. Really? Okay. That's literally audio from the Australia incident.
Yeah.
But good try. And yes, so many of you have tagged me in this video, and that is exactly what I think she is doing here. Even if Miss Amby claims that she does not have a blank addiction, because according to her nurse's notes, yes, she does. Also, I love how Hollywood this is. She literally keeps asking her lawyers for line.
And let me just stop you for a moment. Have you seen Mr. Depp take any drugs by this point?
Oh yeah, sorry if I left that out.
It was all just such a mess. And as a survivor myself, it was super, super hard to listen to, especially the crazy essay allegations that she made where she said she felt no pain. Just super disappointed in someone that claims to be an activist.
So I now, looking back at that and having rewatched it in several different directions, her doing that, she was posing for a photo. You can see the court photographer and her kind of turned to the side. It was very dramatic, but that's what I now believe she was doing. I do obviously believe she's an addict because, I don't know, the professionals around her believe she's an addict. And also I love that audio. It wasn't permitted in court. We talked about this before because it was hearsay. It was deemed hearsay because there were other people on that audio than Johnny and Amber. And for whatever reason, those audios that had other people on them were not deemed admissible in court, but that one has been leaked. So we did have that one, but her talking about all she was popping was Xanax, Adderall, ecstasy, MDMA, and hallucinogens. And that's when she's in Australia. So she has the audacity to sit there and lie and say she would never do it around him. And she never would have done it before Australia or gotten any requests for that before Australia. Yes, you would, Amber. Concerning her essay allegations about Australia, I mean, we can have a whole episode about that if people would like. I'd have to go through the whole Australia incident again, but she claimed really wild things. She claimed that she was drugged through glass, her feet were bleeding. There's no, like, we can go through the photos. It's like crime scene photos, what they documented, because they were documenting for the house, the damage to the house. So there's only little droplets of blood like you would get from, I don't know, losing the tip of your finger, not being drugged through glass with your arms and your feet all dragged through it. In the audio that audio I played where she says all I was popping, Jerry, was Xanax, Adderall, ecstasy, and hallucinogens. She was walking, stomping around the house in shoes. I don't know how you get shoes on your feet out. And that was after the incident because they're looking for his finger and he's already been sent to the hospital. So, and she's begging in that audio to please, can I go with him? Please. They want to send her back to the United States to keep her away from him, not like vice versa. Like they want her out of there so he can continue to go to work and like deal with things. They want him safe from her. And she's sitting there begging to go back. It's a whole thing. Highly recommend listening to the audio. I know I've linked it in another episode before. I'll try to remember after this to link it in the description below because it is eye-opening about what truly happened in Australia. And as always, it links back to Johnny's side of events. Absolutely crazy. And yeah, she said, so I need to re-listen to it. From what I remember, she said it was a broken whiskey bottle. I don't know how that's humanly possible without you going to the hospital yourself. And then Johnny is the only one that went back to the hospital. But I've heard from other people since then. I honestly haven't watched her testimony in full since I was in court physically. So I would have to go back and like watch it. But some people said it wasn't broken, but still, I think you would have to go to the hospital. But I'm kind of paranoid in that sense. And yeah, she was dancing just a few days later. I mean, you can see her go through the airport too. There's photos and paparazzi videos of her going through the airport, coming back to the United States because she did not stay in Australia. They did get her out of there and she's walking in shoes, totally fine. And I don't know how you do that after. So yeah, much less go dance. Yeah. Why didn't she say his finger was severed from when he ran her the bottle? Does that make more? That would have made more sense. Oh, that might have made more sense. Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. Okay. Are we at, I think it's the next one. Hold on. Now
Court with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard this week. And on Thursday, we heard about just how obsessed Ms. Heard is still with Johnny Depp's children.
Yeah. Okay. We listened to that one.
So today in court with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, we learned many things, like how the words pledged and donated are interchangeable to Amber Heard, that broken noses can be fixed in under 24 hours as long as you have a solid ice pack. You won't even need medical attention. And we finally began Amber Heard's cross-examination, where Johnny's lawyer Camille gave a new meaning to though she be but little, she is fierce. And I hope she felt this hug from all around the world because God, I wish I could hug this woman. But before I get emotional here, let's go. So today Amber started off strong with an entirely new demeanor than she had last week. She's also dressed like this. And so I originally said to you guys, is that General Tarkin? But you guys were right. I was giving her way too much credit with that villain. She's definitely more aligned with someone that likes to monologue their evil exploits.
I fucking was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are your toes?
What am I supposed to do? Do this?
How are your
I'm not
toes?
sitting here bitching about it, am I? You are.
Oh,
that's the difference
you
between
poor
me and
toes.
you. You're a fucking baby.
Because you start
You
physical
are
fights?
such a baby.
Because
Grow
you-
the fuck up.
Because you start
Johnny.
physical fights?
I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did. So I had to get
Because-
the fuck out of there.
And while we're on the subject of her outfit today, as House and Habit pointed out on Instagram, that's a B earring. You cannot tell me that she's not doing this on purpose. And yes, Amber did testify today that this was not the exact bruise kit that she used throughout her marriage to Johnny Depp. You know, since this one was released in 2017, confirmed by Milani Cosmetics. Even though her lawyer Lane said in her opening that that was what she had in her purse their entire relationship. Amber also told us how she would have to prep for court, that in order to prepare for these trials, she had to look through her diaries, calendars, therapist notes, which is weird because she keeps saying she would never forget any of these incidents. Yet, even with all these recollections, she's still mixing things up. For instance, this photo for years now has been used as the May 21st, 2016 incident where Amber said that Johnny created destruction in his house before leaving. But then last week in court, she said that it was actually for the December 2015 incident. And then today in court, she said this photo was from the May 21st, 2016 incident. Girl, we got to get our photos straight here. I'm starting to feel like I'm living this meme. She also testified that she didn't meet Elon Musk until the Met Gala of 2016 when Johnny Depp was a no-show. She also said she didn't have her phone at that time because Johnny had thrown it off the balcony. Oddly enough, she was able to text her friend the very next day though, but I digress. And oddly enough, Johnny was not a no-show at the Met Gala. She said he left her solo on the red carpet.
So this is where I fucked up. I was so tired. I wasn't even paying attention at that point that night. And I was like, left her solo at the Met Gala. I was like, what the fuck is she even talking about? And I like Googled Johnny Depp Met Gala 2016 or whatever. And this photo popped up. And so I was like, yeah, he didn't. And then I woke up in the morning to a stream of messages and I was like, holy shit, no. Because I didn't look up the date of the Met Gala. Had I looked it up, and I'll explain it in the next video, I would have realized this was after she had shit the bed. He did stand her up because he was never going to really see her again.
Ma'am. However, it is possible that she could have sat by Elon during this Met Gala because you're not allowed to sit by your spouse. And as we know from court transcripts, Amber had been sneaking Elon Musk into Johnny Depp's penthouse far before 2016. Not to mention they both were in Machete Kills in 2012, but I digress. And I loved how when Amber was talking about donations and cross that Elon made in her name, she said, I don't know if he was a new boyfriend. And the cross-examination of Amber Heard started out strong, but I'm not going to have enough time to talk about it tonight, so I'll let you know about it in tomorrow's recap. Okay, goodbye. So today, y'all, I fucked up hard last night, my recap. When Amber Heard said she met Elon Musk in 2016, I just saw red. I didn't even look up Met Gala dates. I was exhausted last night. Let me clear things up. Johnny Depp definitely did stand Amber Heard up during the Met Gala in 2016. This is a photo from 2014, I think, that I used last night. I Googled Johnny Depp Met Gala 2016, and this was the photo. This was a lot of the photos that showed up. No. He stood her up. And I know he stood her up because the Met Gala happened on May the 2nd, 2016. So this photo was taken after she'd pooped the bed. Johnny and Amber would not see each other for over a month after she crapped the bed and then blamed it on her 4-pound Yorkshire Terriers. Johnny had by then resolved to divorce Amber and only returned back to their penthouses to gather his things on May 21st, 2016. But my comments on Elon still stand because her saying she met Elon that night is preposterous. She may have sat by him, but she did not meet Elon that night because they were in a movie called Machete Kills together in 2012. But hey, maybe that was just a cameo. Maybe she didn't meet him then. That's fine. There's multiple sworn statements to the court that Elon Musk was being snuck into Johnny Depp's penthouse as early as March of 2015. And yes, that is the same month that he lost part of his finger. There's also video surveillance footage of him being snuck into Johnny Depp's penthouse with Amber. Anyways, thank you guys for coming to my TED Talk about Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, and Elon Musk. I'll be live streaming all day while these two are in court since I'm not physically there right now. So come hang out with me and watch the cross-examination of Amber Heard. Also, I'm so sorry for this very simple mistake.
So yeah, I was home back in Orlando at this point in time. As I talked to you guys about, my boss had put me out there in Virginia for like a month, right? And he asked me if I wanted to go back, which was very kind of him after the judge had that week-long break. And I said no, because honest to God, guys, it got so fucking insane. Like with people hopping the line and screaming at each other and all of that noise. It was a fan event. Like it became not just like going to court. It was ridiculous. And getting up for 2 a.m. and going to bed at 11, I just couldn't do it anymore. And like I said, by this point in time, like you don't know how depressed I fucking was at that point in time. It was hard for me to get out of bed to go and sit in my living room and live stream it, which sounds terrible, but I was like so fucking done with everything. Not them in particular, but just like I was burnt out on domestic violence as a survivor myself. Very hard to not only intake all day, but then I have to like report on it in a social media sense. That was really extremely difficult. But yeah, I totally fucked that out. I do love, Allie said her stomach looks pretty flat in that pic, pretty empty colon, if I do say so myself. I will say Amber Heard. So I knew about Amber Heard before her and Johnny were a thing because I'm a horror movie fan. I saw All the Boys Love Mandy Lane. That was one of her first movies-ish, I believe. I loved her because I thought she was a super open bisexual woman. I thought she was so fucking hot. She is. She's insanely gorgeous. She's also insane. I just like, and I was such a fan that in 2016 when all this came out, I believed her. And I was like, I cannot believe Johnny Depp did this. But then, of course, with researching more and everything else, I'm obviously, you can tell I'm extremely biased in this case. But yeah, a little bit of background on me. But anyways, we'll go to the next day. Or I guess this was this day, live
Today
streaming.
in court with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, we learned that Amber Heard would never assault Johnny. I mean, except for that time that she hit him.
Out of
we
pocket.
also learned that she definitely doesn't do drugs. Well, until she does to them, and that everyone so far has been lying except her. Like, it is amazing to me how this woman can rewrite history. But with that being said, let's go. Yesterday, Camille started off her cross-examination of Amber Heard strong.
And the man you beat up numerous times. Right, Miss Heard? I could never hurt Johnny. You're here in this courtroom because Mr. Depp finally told the world that he's a victim of domestic violence.
And just like yesterday, Amber Heard would claim on the stand that she didn't assault Johnny Depp ever. But then about 15 minutes later, she talked about the staircase incident, which involved herself, her sister, and Johnny, where she said, "It's always been my testimony that I hit Johnny." Girl. They also played audio where she discussed how she was hitting him, not punching him. And she said this was always done in order to save herself from the fights with Johnny, but...
Because you start physical fights?
Baby,
Because
grow the fuck up,
Because you start
Johnny.
physical fights?
I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did, so I had to get the fuck out of there.
And since being on the stand, Amber Heard has testified that all of the police officers that were called to the May 21st incident are liars, that her nurse, Erin Borum, was a liar in her notes when she talked about her addictions, that all of Johnny's security were liars on different occasions, even throwing her own lawyers under the bus for photos that they hadn't submitted to court that she says she submitted to them. Which brings me to my next point. After cross-examination of Amber was done, we had the redirect done by Elaine. Now, the redirect was a mess for many reasons, but the dismissal of Amber Heard assaulting her ex-wife was wild to me. Elaine saying that Amber's ex, Tasha, had made a statement basically dismissing it in the press. She failed to mention that Tasha said that the officers that arrested Amber were homophobic, and as you see, they're not. But then redirected ended quite abruptly.
Sustain the objection. Next question.
This was wild to me.
Next question. Yeah, okay. I don't have any more questions, Your Honor. All right, thank you. All right. Maybe you can have.
What happened there? Like, redirect was super short. And then that. Oh, but wait, it gets better. Amber was told to go have a seat by her counsel. Court had not been dismissed yet, but this happened.
Seat next to your attorney, okay? You can go ahead and seat next to her. That's fine. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take our afternoon recess then for 15 minutes. Do not discuss the case with anybody and don't do any outside research, okay?
She left the courtroom without the court being dismissed, without the jury leaving, without the judge leaving. That was insanely disrespectful. I'll be so interested to see if this has an effect on the case till tomorrow. Today,
I could not believe that because there is a very strict way to dismiss court, and the judge told her twice to go sit by her attorneys, and she did not. She walked out the fucking door. She's obviously pissed, I think. I mean, I just sat in a courtroom with her for a month, but I think she's obviously pissed. I mean, I think Elaine was meant to do so much more, and then she just didn't for whatever reason. And I had heard through the grapevine that it reportedly she screamed at Elaine afterwards, but I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know how true that is. But I had heard that was through the grapevine from the security guards there. So very interesting to me. But yeah, Elaine seemed like she was totally flustered. And I don't have any more questions, Your Honor. And I think, I don't know. That had me wondering for a minute, like if Elaine suddenly didn't believe her client or something like that. But then you see the whole press tour they did after.
y'all, we are about to have a very eventful final week in court with these two, because it's not only been reported that Johnny Depp is going to take the stand again tomorrow, this time being called by Amber's team, as they only have 8 hours left, and we all know how slow he talks. Like, I feel like he wasn't their best witness already, but guys, we only have 8 hours. But it's also been reported that Amber Heard's sister, Whitney Heard's old boss, will be called into court. Now, this is interesting for many reasons. When Whitney took the stand last week, she testified about the staircase.
I want to pause it real quick because Ali said she did, and then someone walked in on Elaine crying in the bathroom, and that, I mean, that's just hearsay, but that's really not a far cry from the truth, because we shared bathrooms with the lawyers, we the public who were allowed in. I saw Camille like constantly in the bathroom. Like, we saw all of. I mean, I ran into Elaine. I told Elaine I liked her dress one day because like we were running into each other. So it isn't a far cry to say that, like, yeah, someone could have walked in on her crying, but also isn't a far cry to say that could be rumor, hearsay, who knows?
This incident happening in LA at the couple's penthouses where Whitney was living for free, along with a multitude of Amber's other friends, even some that Johnny didn't even know about. Then were shocked, scared, and terrified when he asked them to get out. The audacity. Anyways, the staircase incident happened on March 23rd, 2015. That date's very important because remember, Johnny lost his finger on March the 8th. And he had a cast on his hand at this point. And this is also an important date because Amber supposedly found texts where Johnny was supposedly cheating on her and she was freaking out and asked Whitney to come over and kind of be a marriage counselor for them. That's funny because by March 2015, Amber was already spotted sneaking Elon Musk into Johnny Depp's penthouses late at night by concierge. The audacity. But this March incident, along with Whitney's testimony, is very important because she's the only one to ever claim to see Johnny hurt Amber in any way. I mean, the fight escalated, and while they were on the mezzanine level, Amber thought Johnny was going to push her sister down the stairs, and so she punched him. Soon after, Johnny had grabbed Amber by the hair and was punching her, according to Whitney. Only thing is, she doesn't mention that cast in her witness statement or while she was on the stand, which I just find interesting. While on the stand, Whitney would also claim that Johnny threw a full Red Bull can at his nurse, Debbie Lloyd. Debbie Lloyd has already testified that Johnny never threw anything at her. So someone is lying, especially since there are two different witnesses that have a completely different account. Nurse Debbie Lloyd that testified just mainly to her nurse note, and Travis McGivern, Johnny Depp's security guard, who said that the fight was actually the other way around, and he had to remove projectiles away from Miss Heard because he knew she was going to throw them at Johnny. She'd already thrown her purse at him. But this brings us to another witness, Whitney Heard's old best friend and ex-boss, Jennifer Howell, who she used to call her chosen sister. I mean, that was until Jen went to testify for Johnny Depp's team in the United Kingdom trial. See, Jennifer has testified to a completely different story from the Heard sisters. See, shortly after this incident, Whitney Heard did not live with the couple. She actually left. Now, she claims it's because Johnny made up stories about her leaking stuff to the media. However, Jennifer Howell testified that Whitney showed up shortly after the staircase incident and said that she was afraid that Amber was going to kill Johnny, and that night in the penthouses, Amber had been attacking Johnny. And when Whitney tried to intervene, Amber almost pushed her down the stairs. And Jennifer would also go on to try to write her friend about this, begging her in the letter not to perjure herself for her abusive sister. Now, Jennifer Howell does run her own charity. It's called the Art of Elysium. It's a charity that allegedly Amber Heard thought was too small to donate her $7 million to. It's in my link tree. I'd encourage you tonight, if you get some time, to go and donate to Jennifer. Y'all, we are about to have...
We'll just go to the next one. Yeah.
Y'all, I don't even know where to start with today's recap of court. Good God. So since it's impossible to make sense of nonsense, this is probably going to be a short recap. But with that being said, let's go. First witness of the day was Dr. Moore. Now, he's an orthopedic surgeon who is an expert.
That's what I want to talk about. I can't even remember what the fuck her name was. The brunette that came to visit, I want to say. Was she visiting or she was staying? She was staying with Raquel. She wasn't even friends with either sister. I think she was just staying with Raquel. And then Johnny comes in. He's obviously fucking pissed because that was the whole phone incident. That was everything. He knew his marriage was done. He was getting out the door. He had to grab a few things. He didn't even have keys to, I think it was penthouse 4 he was trying to get into. He didn't even have keys to one of his own places. She had taken it over that much. They had to get him keys to that penthouse. And when they open it, there's Josh Drew and this random ass bitch that I don't even know her name. And she can't believe he yelled at her to get the fuck out of his own house. Like, I was sitting listening to that testimony and I was like, he doesn't know you from me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm a complete and utter stranger to this man. And you are in his home. And you can't believe he says, get the fuck out. And he's one of the most, like, I don't even think this is up for debate. Johnny Depp is one of the most famous men in the world, especially at that point in time. One of the most famous people in the world, and you're in his house. And the people he was housing thought it was acceptable to just bring strangers like that into his, like, that whole thing boggled my brain. And she's like, I felt unsafe. I'm like, you know what, bitch? You should have. Castle law's a thing in Texas. Like, that's where I'm like, I know you're in California, so it's a different set of rules. But why the fuck are you in his house? Anyways, that's my rant on this whole thing.
expert witness on behalf of Amber Heard.
Like, I'm at a loss for words on that. I'm at a loss for words on that one because it's like, you're kidding.
He basically was in court to disprove Johnny Depp's story of how he lost the tip of his middle finger in Australia. As we know, Johnny's story is that Amber threw a vodka bottle at him while his hand was resting on the bar. The bottle exploded, severing the tip of his middle finger. He ended up contracting MRSA at least 3 times from that. Now, Amber's story of how Johnny lost his finger, well, it's changed a bit. In 2016, she said he did it by punching a wall.
Amber, you apparently created some story about you punching a wall or something like that.
She says that I did it myself, yeah. By punching a wall.
Just another way to hurt you.
But she changed her story again when she filed the motion to dismiss the Fairfax, Virginia trial, recounting how Johnny had severed his finger by smashing a phone into the wall. But this story changed again when Amber was a witness in the libel trial in the United Kingdom. In her sworn witness statement, she said she wasn't sure how Johnny cut his finger off and she didn't see it until the next morning when he held it up to her saying, "Look what you made me do." But last week, video deposition from Christina Sexton, Amber Heard's old acting coach, was played in court. And Christina told the court that at the time, Amber had actually told her that Johnny cut his own finger off after he accidentally smashed a vodka bottle. Which brings us back to Dr. Moore's expert opinion. He said today that he thought Johnny had lost it by smashing it in the accordion doors, which has never been Amber's story, but it has been Johnny's at one point. See, Johnny's team's story was that he cut his finger off while he was cutting onions, but that didn't make sense to Johnny, so he told the doctor that it was done by an accordion door. What's interesting is in the doctor's notes, they say that it was more likely performed by a crushing mechanism of sorts, and basically that they didn't buy his story. Dr. Moore also kept testifying that Johnny had his hand flat on the surface, which has never been Johnny's testimony. And when the lawyers approached the bench, Johnny explained it to his legal team again that his hand was hanging off the bar when she threw the vodka bottle at him. Anyways, we then had Dr. Spiegel take the stand. He's a psychiatrist. Oh, wait, that's better. Dr. Spiegel's a psychiatrist, and he was also an expert witness for Amber Heard. But he was very combative.
Charlie and Chocolate Factory. Did you look at that one when you were comparing this processing speed? Do I have to answer that question, Your Honor?
You have to answer questions. Yes, sir.
He also used his time on the stand to diagnose Johnny Depp, even though he's never evaluated Johnny. It was, in my opinion, very unethical, especially from a man who said in his deposition that Johnny was an idiot. And if I'm being honest with you all, Amber's last witness of today was irrelevant to me. After comparing Amber Heard's career to Zendaya's, girl, in what world could Amber Heard have had a career like Zendaya's? Even if these lawsuits hadn't happened, even if her relationship with Johnny Depp hadn't happened, in what fucking world? But anyways, at the end of the day, Amber Heard's team only has 4 hours left. They're not sure if they're calling Johnny Depp back to the stand, so TBD. And reportedly on Wednesday, Johnny Depp's ex, Kate Moss, will be taking the stand on his behalf in this trial. And reportedly, Johnny Depp's own team will be calling him back to the stand, so what a week. Y'all, I don't even...
Dr. Spiegel. What a guy. He was so unprofessional. It hurt. And his mouth situation he had going was so crazy. Like he was, and then, yeah, like to the fact, like every law tuber that was around at that point in time was like, him evaluating Johnny Depp, number one, based on his movies. But even if they hadn't done that, he never evaluated Johnny. So for him to get up and say that Johnny's this way, this way, this way, and this way, he feels he's never met the man. How on earth can he render a professional diagnosis of this man? Like, that was wild. Anyways.
Today in court with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
Like all of Amber's experts, I mean, I don't know. Like the finger situation, he's not even describing the event how anyone has been describing it so far either. And he's saying, I mean, he's there for Amber, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's saying it's like a crushing mechanism, right? That came on the door. Like, anyways, he's not even giving Amber's story credence. It doesn't matter.
We learned that Amber Heard still has her Aquaman contract, even though she testified that she did not. We also heard from a ton of expert witnesses. Some were recalled and some were brand new. All of them did a pretty damn good job at refuting Amber Heard's witnesses that they were called to refute. But the true star witness of today was Morgan Knight, who was the former owner and live-in manager of the Hicksville Trailer Palace, where Amber alleged that Johnny assaulted her. However, Morgan had a completely different story, claiming that it was actually Amber who he witnessed was jealous and aggressive that day, to the point that he saw Johnny cowering away from her. He testified that he saw Johnny's entire demeanor change for the rest of the trip. He testified that he recognized this behavior because he's been a victim himself, although Amber's team had that struck from the record. He also testified that the only thing damaged in the trailer was a light fixture, which is interesting compared to Whitney's statement where she said it looked like a bomb had gone off in the trailer. So it looks like Johnny didn't trash the trailer in Hicksville.
I just want to say too, as someone who has worked in hospitality basically my entire adult career, if you had trashed my shit, I would be sitting on the stand trashing you. And I would be telling them by list everything you destroyed in the fucking hotel or trailer park trailer. I've Googled their trailer park. It's very high class. But yeah, I wouldn't be like, yeah, it was just a light fixture if it wasn't just a light fixture.
Also got to the much anticipated video deposition of Jennifer Howell, Whitney Heard's ex-boss and ex-best friend, who Whitney used to call her chosen sister until Jennifer testified on Johnny's behalf in the United Kingdom trial. But Jennifer's testimony in this trial seemed to be cut short. It mostly relied on Amber Heard lying about the donations that she had given and not about the staircase incident, which was mostly what Whitney had talked about in her testimony, as Whitney is the only one to ever have claimed to see Johnny be physically violent towards Amber. However, we know Jennifer's statement has been that Whitney showed up on her doorstep having to move out of the couple's penthouses because she was afraid that Amber was going to kill Johnny. But unfortunately, the jury didn't get to hear that, but they did get to hear this.
Why did you send this email and letter to Miss Enriquez?
Because I've struggled very much with what to do in a situation that I love someone who I know is doing something very wrong, and I know that they're doing it because they're trying to protect their sister, and I'm trying to protect her, and I'm just trying to get her to wake up and do the right thing, which is tell the truth. It's the only thing that can help everybody involved in this case.
And from what I can tell, it's still up for debate whether or not Jennifer's letter to Whitney will be permitted into evidence for the jury to see. And after court today, we found out that TMZ filed an emergency motion. It seems as though they don't want their former employee to disclose where on earth they got this video from and who sold it to them. I think we all know. But until tomorrow, when we have two badass bitches take the stand, reportedly Miss Kate Moss, Johnny Depp's ex, testifying on his behalf, and from what I've heard, Dr. Shannon Curry. But don't shoot the messenger if I'm wrong. See you guys tomorrow. Today.
Oh my God. Yeah, TMZ. I mean, this Morgan Tremaine is the guy from TMZ, and he has a YouTube channel. He's done a revisit of it 1 year, and I thoroughly loved watching his 1 year revisit as well as his testimony. I think I'm gonna get into that the next video. Have a couple of clips, but his 1 year revisit was really awesome. I highly suggest to go over and see it and see him and give him a
In court with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard today, we learned that Kate Moss was never pushed down the stairs by Johnny Depp. That
Surprise.
Amber's lawyer Rottenborn has a real thing for questioning Johnny Depp about his text messages, even when Johnny testifies that he didn't write these messages. And upon the internet looking at them further, it looks as though they're a part of a group chat and that these are actually incoming text messages. So maybe he didn't write them. And almost everyone that Johnny brought to the stand today, Elaine accused of trying to get their 15 minutes of fame, which led to this epic clapback.
So I stand to gain nothing from this. I'm actually putting myself kind of in a target of TMZ, a very litigious organization, and I'm not seeking any 15 minutes here. So you're welcome to speculate. I could say the same thing by taking Amber Heard as a client for you.
A little argumentative, don't you think?
Oh, hardly. I find that to be purely logical.
And that's being said by the queen of argumentative. Someone who will talk back to the judge when they overrule their objection. Lord, but with that being said, let's go. So we started today with the short but to the point testimony of Kate Moss. Kate testifying that she had fallen down some stairs while she'd been dating Johnny, slipping on the stairs after a rainstorm in Jamaica. saying Johnny actually picked her up after this incident and got her medical attention, and that he never pushed, kicked, or threw her down any stairs. Then Dr. Curry returned to the stand to rebut what Dr. Hughes said for Amber's team, and also to be grilled by Elaine about a dinner that she had with Johnny Depp's legal team where Johnny Depp was present. Basically, Elaine was giving these vibes while trying to discredit a witness. TBH, I'm not sure if it's going to work, but we'll see what the jury says. We also heard from Morgan Termaine, who's a former field manager for TMZ. And TMZ, along with Elaine, tried extremely hard to not have him testify.
He's going to claim that someone leaked to TMZ that Ms. Heard was going to obtain the TRO on that Friday and also leak the video, the kitchen video with Mr. Depp being rather violent.
Because she did!
I'm almost certain he's not going to claim it's Ms. Heard, so I think it's never going to come in.
Almost certain was good wordage to use, Elaine, because Morgan testified that they were not only tipped off by a very credited source that Amber Heard would be leaving the court on May the 27th for her TRO, but that Amber would stop and turn for the cameramen to get a good view of her bruise, giving the cameramen their assignment, and they captured it. Then Morgan testified about how TMZ got the copyright to the edited kitchen video, you know, the one that didn't include Amber laughing at the end as she walked away from Johnny. And he said it was sent in by a credible source through a link and that it takes a long time to get copyright on a lot of videos and photographs. But if it's sent directly from a source, it only takes about 15 minutes. Camille then asked, how long did it take to obtain copyright on this video? Morgan testified about 15 minutes. We then heard from Johnny Depp's metadata expert, Brian Neumeister, who testified that the metadata on Amber's photograph showed evidence that they've been passed through photo editing software, so that's a thing. We also heard from Amber Heard's arresting officer, Beverly Leonard, who arrested her in the Seattle airport after she assaulted her then partner. Beverly saying she witnessed Amber grab her ex-partner's arm and pull her necklace off of her neck, which led almost like a rope burn type injury around Taja's neck. Now the charges were dropped and Amber's ex has made a statement about it since, calling the officers misogynistic and homophobic, which was a wild statement to make because Beverly Leonard is a very proud member of the LGBTQ+ community. But Beverly's testimony could open some doors for Amber's legal team, even though they only have about an hour left of their time. They could maybe possibly call Taja in to be a witness for them. So we'll see what happens. And then Johnny's team recalled him to the stand today, where he testified about Amber's counterclaim that he hadn't seen his lawyer's statements until they were in the media. Also to being assaulted on his honeymoon, which of course Rottenborn argued and crossed. But Johnny was able to end his time under direct examination with this.
No matter what happens, I did get here and I did tell the truth. And I have spoken up for what I've been carrying on my back reluctantly for 6 years.
In court with Johnny Depp and Amber.
It's so much to break down. The metadata guy. So it has come up because of the unsealed documents. It's come up that both sides were arguing that the other had edited photos because, I don't know if you know, Johnny has a heck of a lot of photos of Amber abusing him as well. That Amber Heard stans have been arguing that, well, Johnny edited his photos too, to which the unsealed court documents, and we talked about this in the first episode on this, the reason they weren't in court, the reason that evidence was not allowed in court is because there wasn't enough of it, or there was enough to disprove it, that it didn't make it into court, so that it didn't waste everybody's time. So no, there wasn't enough evidence for Amber Heard's team to have a metadata expert come in and look at Johnny Depp's photos, because if you look at the unsealed documents, it just talks about how a few of Johnny's photos had been sent via text message between phones and stuff. Not that they've been passed through photo editing software like Amber's had. And you can tell, I didn't even show, that photo, I don't know if I can find it real quick on Twitter right now. Let me see. Because there, you can tell with the lighting. Number one, there's this one. Hold on. Let me stop sharing this screen and I'll share my other screen with you. No. Rottenborn. Mr. Rottenborn. Share screen. Okay. So you can see this is obviously edited, but this isn't Amber's team doing it. This is the Sun. Let's scroll down though, because some of these are going to be just, yes, it's this one. So you see the tanness. I don't know if you can see me pointing, but you've got like how tan this one is and then how pale this one is. Like she edited these photos. And then what I always find interesting is how the bruise does move, because this is supposedly where the phone hit her. But if we Google Amber Heard leaving court, oh, of course, it's going to go to the Virginia trial. Let me see. Amber Heard bruise is probably what I'm looking for. Yeah, these photos are ridiculous. Because, like, look, okay, I'm going to share this screen now. Hold on, sorry. Now that I've learned about sharing screens, I'm like, I'm all about it. I'm an old lady over here. Okay. So you can see it like, because she's all red down here. But, okay. Then where is her leaving court is the question. Bruce kit, Bruce arm. PMZ. This one here. That doesn't even look like the same area as where she was originally supposedly. Do you know what I'm saying? This is supposed to be from the same event. Anyways, and that to me doesn't matter. And then the next day, I don't know if it'll come up like May. She filed that on the 27th. It would have been 28th, 2016. She was out with Raquel, and here's her face. So I don't know, y'all. I don't know. Anyways, let me go back to the other. Try Amber Tiara Bruce. Yeah. Okay, sorry. We'll get back to this. I get so tired of it. Okay.
Today in court with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard confessed under cross-examination that the op-ed that she wrote that she is being sued for was in fact written about her ex-husband, Johnny Depp.
In 2016, you didn't expect a TMZ employee to show up to testify that TMZ had been alerted that you would be at the courthouse and knew exactly which side of your face to take a picture of, did you?
I know how many people will come out and say whatever for him. That's his power. That's why I wrote the op-ed. I was speaking to that phenomenon. How many people will come out in support of him and will fall to his power? He is a very powerful man, and people love currying favor with powerful men.
Currying
And I know
favor
that
and
firsthand. I've
risking
lived
jail
it.
time for committing perjury?
Now, I don't know about you guys or the jury, but that statement proves to me that Amber Heard wrote this op-ed about her ex-husband with intent and malice. And concerning that former employee for TMZ who testified yesterday about how he'd received a credible tip that Amber Heard was going to file a restraining order on May the 27th, Lily Rose Depp's birthday, and that she would stop and pose for the cameras showing her bruise to them, Amber Heard testified today that he was a liar. But if you've been following this case for any length of time, then you're aware of this wonderful letter here that Amber Heard's lawyers sent to Johnny Depp's lawyers the week of May 21st to 27th, advising him and his legal team about Amber's petition for dissolution of marriage and demanding 3 of his 5 penthouses. So I guess girlfriend was just going to be his neighbor after all the abuse that he put her through. The Range Rover, and a sizable monthly fee. And if Johnny didn't deliver all of this by May the 27th, 2016, Amber would go public with her abuse allegations. In response, Johnny filed for divorce on May the 25th. And on May the 27th, TMZ got this photo. Mill also questioned Amber about why she used the same photo.
Can we just like say what a boss Johnny Depp is to respond to that letter by filing, especially since Amber had sent him text messages saying, well, if you file, then it will be public record and everyone will know your shit kind of thing. So you might as well just like settle this with me. Basically was what she was saying. I'm here saying it, but like, you know, I can pull those texts, promise. Absolutely. But I find it very funny.
photo for two separate incidents. This photo she first testified was for the December 2015 incident, which shook all of us that knew anything about the case, because for the longest time it was photo evidence from the May 21st, 2016 incident. But then when that incident came up, she said that it was from the May 21st incident. So we were all very confused until she clarified today that she's not sure how she's supposed to keep all of it straight, which I think could be fair if she is telling the truth. However, then you don't testify about it. And we heard again how everyone is lying. Everyone wants her 15 minutes of fame, including Kate Moss, who came out of the woodwork for Johnny Depp. She said Kate Moss came out of the woodwork. And honestly, I'm not sure why her team called her back on the stand when they had about 10 minutes left of time and Johnny's team still had over 6 hours. It wasn't a good look to end on. So tomorrow will just be closing arguments between both teams, and then it's up to the jury to deliberate and give us a verdict. But if you want more tea and hearsay, after Amber said that she'd never seen Morgan Knight in her life, who has testified that he was very present during the couple's stay in Hicksville, I would head over to his old coworker's Twitter page. They're spilling the tea right now. But again, like with everything, including me, y'all know I'm biased. Take it with a grain of salt and do your own research. Today in court.
Oh, Morgan. Yeah. Yeah, CDV victims are looking to get as far away as possible, not your neighbor. Like that. I will never get over most of this trial because it's absolute lunacy.
Johnny Depp was awarded $15 million in court today after winning his defamation.
So I didn't do anything on closing statements. I don't even remember. I watched them. I remember finding them boring to an extent, as terrible as that sounds. Then we had a break, obviously, for the jury to deliberate. And then Amber was the only one present, which, by the way, I find this very interesting because Nick Wallace, who was very much present for the Johnny Depp fans during the United Kingdom trial, was there presenting evidence. I always do recommend going over to Nick Wallace's website to look at the actual court documents from the United Kingdom trial. However, he has it's not flipping the switch in Amber's favor. It's more he wants clout. So he's just tweeting whatever gets him the most clicks lately. It's been embarrassing to watch, to be honest. Because he's got this book coming out where he tells all about the relationship. But what's really funny to me about this journalist, mainstream media, telling all, is he didn't even get it right, apparently, according to a tweet. I have not read this book, but according to someone's tweet this week, he put that Amber wasn't present for the verdict, which wasn't true. Amber was the only one present. Johnny wasn't present. Johnny was over touring with Jeff Beck at dates he'd already been at. So anyways, we'll watch this, but I just find that interesting.
Defamation suit against his ex-wife, Amber Heard. But Amber Heard was also awarded $2 million. So let's pour ourselves a mega pint of wine and get down to what happened. So Johnny did win his defamation suit today, which was honestly surprising to me because...
Sorry, I'll restart this. The reason I made this TikTok video, I was going to make a video anyways, but my mom called me and she was like, Danielle, I don't understand this verdict because Amber won something too. So she was like, can you dumb it down for me so that I can understand this and do it on TikTok? Because she's like, I'm sure if I don't get it, a lot of other people don't. So that's how this came apart. So let's look at why the verdict was the way it was.
Johnny Depp was awarded $15 million in court today after winning his defamation suit against his ex-wife, Amber Heard. But Amber Heard was also awarded $2 million. So let's pour ourselves a mega pint of wine and get down to what happened. So Johnny did win his defamation suit today, which was honestly surprising to me because defamation suits are extremely hard to win, especially for public figures. Johnny had alleged that Amber had made at least 3 defamatory statements in this op-ed.
What happened? Y'all, I had someone at my door, so I went to my... I fucking hate AirPods. That is so annoying. Hold on. Sorry about that. It disconnected my AirPods. That's so rude. I went to just check and make sure I wasn't being robbed or anything. That's so silly. Oh my God. Sorry. General, give me some Bluetooth, baby. Connect it. All right, let's see if this works.
Op-ed that you wrote. And
No, it doesn't work. I hate this. Well, I guess I hope I'm not being robbed. I get nervous when there's people at my door. Amber jinxed it. It's Amber's fault. I was gonna take. How do I take my Bluetooth off my phone? Okay, now let's see if it works.
December of 2018.
There we go.
Just 2 years after the couple's divorce. The first statement they said was defamatory was the title. I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change. The second statement in the op-ed that Johnny alleged was defamatory and about him was, then 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, and I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out. What happened 2 years before this op-ed was written? Their divorce. And the last statement he said was defamatory was, I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse. The jury today found that all of these statements were defamatory, were about Johnny, and were false. That they were designed and intended by Amber, and that they were made with actual malice. Awarding Johnny $10 million in compensatory damages and $5 million in punitive damages. From what I understand, compensatory means it's what Johnny is supposed to be owed for the damages that he withstood, and punitive is more like a punishment so that she doesn't do this to other people. Kind of like a lesson learned. From what I understand, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Then we got to Amber's countersuit. Now, if you don't know, Amber was countersuing Johnny for $100 million concerning 3 statements that Johnny Depp's lawyer, Adam Waldman, had made about her in 2020. Now, Adam Waldman had made these 3 statements in a Daily Mail article. Now, the jury found that 2 of these statements, both A and C, were not defamatory. However, they said that B was concerning the May 21st incident. I personally think they ruled that way because we now know that there was only one 911 call made that day to police. I'm not sure Adam knew that at the time of making this statement, but I'm unsure. Also, I do think that all of these statements were kind of made with malice. I mean, that's kind of what you do for your friends when you're mad and people are lying about them. But that's just my takeaway. Amber was awarded $2 million in compensatory damages and none in punitive, which I think speaks volumes. I also personally think her statement she made today speaks volumes about how she's still not taking accountability for her actions at all. As to me, as a domestic violence survivor, she is the one that hurt women's voices, not Johnny. And this may be a little judgy, but I also find it really funny that her entire statement is about herself, while Johnny is grateful that his life can go back to normal along with his children and his friends' lives. And his statement was full of thank yous to both his supporters, his friends, his family, and his legal team. I think it just speaks volumes. And now we're at the end of this trial, and I'm getting emotional making this TikTok because for over 2 years now, you guys have been with me.
I just want to say my editing skills were not great. And if you're wearing headphones, maybe lower the volume.
Me looking at this case. We started by looking at this case, and yes, I talk true crime and other things now, but we started here in the search for justice for Johnny Depp, and today he was served justice. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I have a career now because of you guys, and I can't wait to see what we do next now that we can move on from all of this, and I can't wait to see what Johnny does next. But until next time, let's go, let's go.
Today's verdict confirms what we have said from the beginning, that the claims against Johnny Depp are defamatory and unsupported by any evidence. We are grateful, so grateful to the jury for their careful deliberation.
Sorry, I'm just pausing it because I don't know if y'all see it, but that's one of Johnny Depp's guards behind them. And he left him there because it got so out of hand. Want to make sure Camille and Benchu, everyone was safe.
To the judge and the court staff who have devoted an enormous amount of time and resources towards this case.
Our judicial system is predicated on each person's right to have his or her case heard, and we were honored, truly honored, to assist Mr. Depp in ensuring that his case was fairly considered throughout the trial. We are also most pleased that the trial has resonated for so many people in the public who value truth and justice. Now that the jury has reached its conclusive verdict, it's time to turn the page and look to the future. Thank you all so much, and thanks to the jury.
Thank you so much.
I also think that Ben Chu gives like the best hugs.
We gotta rise, let's rise. We gotta rise, let's rise above the lies. It's you and I, it's you and I. We gotta rise, let's rise.
So, yeah. That was a year ago today. That's so crazy that was a year ago today. And how different my life was then. I was actually thinking about it a couple of days ago about how like just depressed I was and everything. And I can't believe moving to Texas made me just a little bit more happier, but with family and everything. I saw here, hold on, there was a comment I wanted to respond to. Isn't she like Dust Bowl broke now? So what I have heard about Amber since this, she apparently is living in Spain currently with her daughter Una. We saw a few photos and videos of her very recently, probably because we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary, but also because Johnny's at Cannes. Let's just be real. And he was heading off on his tour with the Hollywood Vampires, where he broke his foot. That's why I'm not in Boston right now. I would actually be getting home about right now from the concert. If his concert had gone on, we're going to see him in July now. But she apparently has been calling the paparazzi on herself. There was a term I saw on Twitter, and I can't remember what the term is, but you can see it in the photos with the paparazzi when they've called on themselves. If anybody knows it, link it down in the comments. But yeah. She's been calling them on herself, and it's been embarrassing. Let's see if there's anything more in this playlist, though.
You guys, there's an update to this mess. I know. But without further ado, let's go. So y'all remember Amber Heard's lawyer, Elaine, right? From that dream legal team.
Your next witness? Your Honor, we'd like to call Laura Amber.
Oh, wait, I just saw somebody said, what? He has the worst luck with limbs. Yeah, so he posted the morning of, I want to say it was the 29th, that he had broken his ankle. Thank God he did, so that we could get things straightened out, because we didn't learn until later how we would have to like reschedule everything, but our tickets are honored, so we're gonna see him end of next month. End of next month? What day is it? June. Yeah, end of next month. So July is when I'll see him. I have meet and greet tickets, so I'll let you know how that goes. We're definitely gonna do a vlog that might only be available on Patreon, but yeah, fun stuff.
Heard to stand. All right. Amber Laura.
She's now asking for the entire case to be thrown out, including the verdict, all based on a birthday, stating that juror number 15 was actually born in 1970, not 1945. Now, this is a fair question, because if he was not properly vetted, could he have served on this jury? They've asked the court to investigate, so we'll see what comes of that. And according to court documents from July 1st, they also argued that they weren't allowed to talk about the verdict that happened in the United Kingdom trial, which wasn't even against Amber. It was against a tabloid newspaper called The Sun for libel, where Amber was only a witness. But that's been shot down so many times, I'm not too worried about that. And also stated that Johnny was unable to prove any financial loss from the op-ed that she wrote, which is basically her saying that the jury members did not know their job in this at all. Now, we've known for a long time that Amber and her team were planning to appeal, because I don't know how Girlfriend's going to pay that money back. So we'll have to wait and see what the courts decide on this, whether they will throw out the verdict or grant a new trial or just let the verdict roll. You guys, there's an...
So there is the wonderful Amber interview that came out. That was so painful for everyone to watch that it even followed the trial. I don't know. Let's go through it real quick, and then I'm going to call it a night, because we've been on here for a hot minute. I think this is in order. We're going to see.
Y'all have to see this clip from Amber Heard's Good Morning America interview, because good God.
Closing arguments, the Depp lawyer called your testimony the performance of a lifetime, and said you were acting. What do you say to that?
Says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers. I'm the performer. I had listened to weeks of...
You could hear me, because I have to be silent when I screen record these things for TikTok. You can hear me in the back if you listen really carefully. I couldn't breathe. Who had scissors for fingers? That is one of the funniest lines. Miss doesn't know what acting is. Good God.
Of testimony, insinuating that or saying quite directly that, I'm a terrible actress. So I'm a bit confused how I could be both.
Amber, honey, performance of a lifetime did not mean a good performance. Also, like, who's going to tell her that acting and recounting events from your past are two separate things? At first, I was honestly going to question whether Amber has honestly had a break from reality. You guys know I have been actually very concerned about her mental health, especially if you've been listening to my podcast. But this entire interview, along with Elaine, her lawyer's press tour from earlier this month, is calculated, extremely calculated. And let me tell you why. So back in May, Amber Heard filed a motion to seal the jury's identities for a year after the trial. This motion was approved, meaning that the media does not know their identities and won't be reaching out to them to ask for comment. However, this does not stop jury members from being able to reach out to the media themselves. But there's a catch. In order to not give any reason for appeal, they have to wait until June 24th to speak out. And that'll be after Amber Heard and her lawyers have already done this press tour cleanup they've been doing. It's been a highly publicized case, so I imagine it will still get media attention, but God, it's frustrating, and I know this was done purposefully. And this is, of course...
I'll be interested to see if some of the jurors start coming forward. I will say, so I was so scared of being thrown out of that courtroom. I never really spoke about what was going on with the jury. And I also didn't really pay attention to them because I was so scared and I didn't want anything to let slip because people were getting kicked out of that courtroom left, right, and center, especially in the beginning. So I was trying to be on my best behavior. Now I wish I'd watched them a little bit more, but of course, only if these jury members wish to speak out publicly about this very publicized trial. Not everybody wants this kind of attention. Do you hear that, Amber? I just have to comment on one more excerpt from this Today Show interview.
There's another tape where you're taunting him and saying, "Oh, tell the world, Johnny Depp, I, a man, am a victim of domestic violence."
20-second clips or the transcripts of them are not representative of even the 2 hours or the 3 hours that those clips are excerpt from.
Could your side have just put the whole 3 hours in then?
I'm not a lawyer.
I'll be interested to see this entire interview, but
they
these
did
30-second, 15-second clips that she keeps referring to that the jury was shown. They were actually shown the full tape as long as there wasn't another party besides her or Johnny Depp on these recordings. Because then for whatever reason, it would have been hearsay. And not only can the jury hear them and did hear them all in full, but you yourself as a public citizen can go to the Fairfax County Court website. And if you go to high profile cases, you'll find Depp versus Heard trial information, including trial exhibits. That's where you want to go. And you'll be able to listen to the audio in full. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Y'all.
Somebody asked, do you think that they'll come out as a group? I don't think they'll come out as a group. I think it'll be more like an O.J. Simpson thing where they kind of come out separately for interviews. I think it'd be smart if one of them wrote a book. Honestly, probably be smart if I wrote a book too, but this has taken up a lot of my life, so I think I'm okay.
So part of Amber Heard's interview with the Today Show was posted to Peacock last night, and I want to do a little recap on it. Firstly, Amber Heard wants us to know that this interview is not going to be done vindictively, and that her goal in this is for us to see her as a human being. To a point, I can get that. She claims the entire trial dehumanized her, along with the social media bots that were organized against her. But like Ambi, usually when it comes out that you've been abusing your spouse, people aren't nice to you. She also touched on how much she feared that Johnny was going to sue her again for defamation, as she felt her First Amendment right had been taken away from her by this lawsuit. Her interviewer, Savannah, having to explain to her that the First Amendment right is great for the truth and that the jury simply did not believe Amber. But I find it funny she's afraid that Johnny's going to sue her for defamation and that she didn't understand really what a defamation trial was. And in 2016, Amber Heard herself sued Johnny Depp's good friend Doug Stanhope over an article he wrote in support of the actor, after Amber had made her allegations against him. This lawsuit was only dropped as a part of their divorce settlement. Girlfriend was gonna go in on this. And what's really funny to me is that this trial was gonna happen in Arizona. When Amber's lawyers, this whole trial was like, oh, Johnny's uprooting our lives and taking us to Virginia where neither of these two ever lived. It's victimizing, it's re-victimizing everyone. Like, this girl is the pot that calls the kettle black every fucking day. Then Amber tried to tell the whole world again that the op-ed was not about Johnny. Do you guys get it? It's not about Johnny.
I know how many people will come out and say whatever for him. That's his power. That's why I wrote the op-ed. Is I was speaking to that phenomenon. How many people will come out in support of him and will fall to his power? He is a very powerful man, and people love currying favor with powerful men.
But it's not about him, guys. Don't worry. Then Amber Heard brought up the UK trial as if it was something she had a part of the victory in. The way she worded it was really sus. Because the UK trial was a libel trial between Johnny Depp and a company called NGN. They owned a tabloid called The Sun, who printed that Johnny was a wife beater. Libel trials are extremely hard to win, especially if you're a public figure, especially if you're fighting against a tabloid, especially one like The Sun, who's shady in and of itself. But anyways, especially sus that Amber Heard, who's supposed to be an activist, keeps proudly aligning herself with them. But anyway, what Amber failed to mention about this trial was she was merely a witness for this trial, not a defendant. She did not have the burden of proof in that case. But Johnny Depp did lose that case, the judge finding 12 of 14 allegations made by Amber Heard substantially true. But I highly suggest you read his entire judgment, because I have, and all Amber Heard had to give as evidence in this case was her fucking word. And time again, you'll see that she'll lie, and the judge will say, I don't think it impinges on her credibility at all, because she was merely a witness in this case, not the defendant, not who was being sued, and not the one that had to prove anything like she did in this case. And after following the UK trial, man, am I glad this one was televised. So part of Amber Heard.
Sorry, I had to go get water. I don't understand why her team keeps like, well, I get it to a point. The media, it looks good in the media. Her just like ramming in that they won that United Kingdom trial, but they didn't win it. And I just feel like every time they say it, I'm like, you guys look so fucking stupid right now, because Amber did not have the burden of proof in that at all. So yeah. Anyways.
interview with the So Amber said multiple times throughout the trial that she just wanted Johnny to leave her alone, and she wanted both of them to move on. And on her Instagram, just a couple days before this court case started, she said, hopefully when this case concludes, I can move on, and so can Johnny. But now we're having the press tour from both Amber and her lawyers. Meanwhile, Johnny Depp has been overseas appearing in concerts. And I'm not entirely sure what she hopes to gain from this interview. I know last night on Peacock, they kind of teased that there was more information than we knew from the court system, because that evidence had been deemed hearsay. Now that evidence hasn't been fully released yet. When it is, we'll talk about it. But as of right now, both Amber and Johnny's teams have made statements concerning Amber's interviews. Depp's legal team saying it's unfortunate that while Johnny has been looking to move forward with his life, the defendant and her team are back to repeating, reimagining, and relitigating matters that have already been decided by a court and a verdict that was unequivocally decided by a jury in Johnny's favor. Meanwhile, Amber's team says, and this has been just wild to me, that if Mr. Depp or his team have a problem with this, we recommend that Johnny himself sit down with Savannah Guthrie for an hour and answer all her questions. What? You know, I've asked you guys this an awful lot throughout this entire trial, but why is Amber Heard's team so fucking defensive and almost unprofessional in the way they approach things? Like if Mr. Depp and his team have a problem with this, yeah, they could, because she could literally be sued for defamation again by him. She even said that during her interview that has aired so far. Like, you're kidding me right now. Like, this is just a completely interesting way to quote unquote move on. And it really does have me wondering if Amber is just doing this all to either get his attention or try to be in the same room as him again. I know that sounds crazy, but it is what abusers do. And what I'm about to show you is total.
So I say that this is total hearsay and it's a total rumor, and yet I got a lot of hate in the comments about it, but I'm like, I'm literally just telling you, like, this is a rumor and it's from Stephen Crowley. Like, I'm literally giving you the source. It's a rumor. I'm giving you more than most media people give you, but like, whatever.
Total hearsay. You understand? Got it, right?
Sorry,
this is pure rumor speculation, but according to Stephen Crowley, who used to be a co-star of Amber's, sources told me Amber Heard reached out to Johnny Depp to see if he wants to get back together. And you and I both know that's not too wild a thought, because after she made those allegations in the spring of 2016, in the summer, she had a friend set up a meeting between her and him, where this was a part of the conversation.
Now, the restraining order says he is not to come within 100 yards of her, and yet she turns up on her own to a hotel room where he is. The tape recording was made by her, not by him. He wasn't aware of it.
you love me. You still love me.
Johnny testified in court that when he realized that meeting was actually Amber trying to get back with him and not her offering to withdraw the false allegations that she had made against him, he was very upset. And in 2018, she even wrote this text message to that mutual friend of theirs that set up that meeting. So who is it again that wants to move on? So Amber.
She's disgusting. So anyways, that's I could go on about this trial forever. I've done this in much more organized fashions before with like actual with this trial, I will say, I should stop sharing screen. With this trial, I usually like to have more how do you say it, like physical evidence, just because it shows the bias. Okay, so domestic violence and SA are so hard to prove as it is. Women have been totally screwed over for years now. And we've also seen men have been too. And that's not something that people are ready to talk about. I feel like the door is open for women to talk about how we've been wrongfully not heard and everything else. But when it comes to men, and I think that's a culture thing. And I think it has to do with the patriarchy of like, it's just not safe for men to come out and say that they were abused. And I do think Johnny Depp did open a door for other men to come out and talk about the abuse that they've gone through. And I think his story is an extremely important one. And I think it is so hurtful when people dismiss it or say, oh, hey, just because he was abused, she was trying to speak out for women's rights, so we should just listen to her. And it's like, well, but she was the abuser. Would you do the same for Harvey Weinstein? Like, would you do the same for, oh, I don't know, who's the other major guy with the popsicles or the pudding pops or whatever? Like, you know, all these people that with abusers, it doesn't matter race, gender, any of that. We need to be just saying no. Like, no. And anyways, it really ticks me off when people dismiss Johnny's story because he was a rich white man. He was a rich white man stuck, and it shouldn't diminish his story. And I've had mothers even reach out to me on TikTok and talk to me about how they're happy because they're able to talk to their sons more easily about this because of this. Not like happy that Johnny went through it, but like it gives them a talking point. And it just really sucks that this is being twisted the other way around because, oh, she's a woman. Like you don't get an excuse, and she's a proven abuser across the board, whether it's male or female. She does not discriminate on gender of who she's abusing. And I am so glad this was publicly in a trial on television, because with the United Kingdom, there was so much secrecy about that case and everything else. We finally had it televised so we could see it. However, the media is trying to gaslight again. And we went through it in the first episode as to why I personally believe the media is doing that. I've had a few other people reach out to me with different things. I do want to look into Johnny did have a lawsuit with some of his people that were dealing with his finances that could have also put him in the blacklist. But he has been blacklisted. You can see it in how his career trajectory has gone. Has nothing to do with his talent, everything to do with this situation. And that's what was ruled on. And her statements were found false a year ago today. Thank God. And honestly, as a Johnny Depp supporter, I was shocked because it is extremely hard for domestic, or not domestic, I shouldn't say that. It's extremely hard for defamation cases and libel cases to be proven when you have an A-list celebrity like Johnny Depp saying like, so-and-so said this about me. Well, your life's kind of out there for all of us to say whatever we want. So it really spoke volumes to me that he won this. The United Kingdom trial, just reiterate again, I feel like I'll be saying this the rest of my life, was not between Johnny and Amber Heard. It was between Johnny and NGN, which is the company that owns the tabloid newspaper The Sun, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch. And we talked about all the crazy coincidences between the Murdochs and Amber Heard in our first episode. But it was not, Amber didn't have the burden of proof in that case. And yeah, so I appreciate you all for dealing with me. We've been talking for over 2 hours tonight. We have revisited the case in full. I just thought of it today. I was like, this has been overwhelming me. I've had so much on my plate and I've been like, oh, I'd have to sit and film that and edit it. And really all I want to do, as terrible as this sounds, is sit and research and finish the 9/11 series. And I just haven't had the time because I've had so much going on. And honestly, I've been psyched out with this Johnny Depp additional thing I've taken on. And I wanted to close it out. And I thought the verdict night, the 1 year anniversary, couldn't be a better time. And I thought, hell, why can't we just go through it? So if you have any questions, if you want me to revisit anything, I have thought about especially revisiting when Amber goes to see him. I don't think I've ever done a deep dive on that when she goes to San Francisco. And it's after the TRO. And I'm kind of thinking I would love to revisit that. So maybe I'll get to work on that and that'll be like a bonus episode. But yeah, I'm gonna look into it. We will be back with more 9/11 content here probably in 2 weeks. I'm gonna be real. Marcus has to get married and I have to get this all together. But I'm so glad you all have been here for it. Thank you, Allie. Thank you, everyone. I can't pronounce. I'm sorry. Is it I'm not even going to try. I'm so sorry. I'm glad I caught this. I watched last year and I'm glad I was able to see you this year. Oh, I so appreciate it, especially if you did come over from watching our live reaction last year. I do really appreciate it. I do want to reiterate, we're no longer filming ITT. So if you do want to support me, this is where you should be for that. So I really do thank you for being here and thank you for still supporting me. And I know everything's kind of like, sometimes it feels a little shoddy. I know, especially with my audio with the podcast. I'm working on it. It is just me now doing it and not a whole studio. So bear with me while we get through it, but we will get through it. I really appreciate it. Oh, okay. It's not mediocre, is it? I don't want to mispronounce it. I can't believe it's been a year either. I really can't. And like I think back to that portion of my life and it was such a weird chapter, but I think back to it's so weird how much shifted too. Because when it started, I was in a good place. When it ended, I was not. I saw footage of me, like, just to be honest, I like to talk about mental health on my TikTok and talk about it here too. I was looking at this time last year, I was watching Stranger Things all by myself. I've always kind of watched that with friends. Um, the only one time I didn't was when I had recently moved to Disney but I was doing so much, Stranger Things was kind of a hassle for me. But I was so alone and I was going through such a rough time and my life is not perfect now and I'm still struggling. But it does get better. I am now living closer to my family, which has helped my mental health so much, so much. But yeah, at the time my career was falling apart, like everything was falling apart. And it was a really, really, really rough go. And I'm just glad to still be here, to be honest with you. But yeah, thank you all for dealing with me through the Johnny Depp trial and everything else. I promise much better place now. Pretty happy, still going through shit, but like, that's life. But yeah, we will see you after Marcus is married. I'm pretty sure that's how this is going to go. If we get it out before then, we're going to do our damn best. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us and Patreon. I'll see y'all tomorrow. And I love you all. And thanks for dealing with me through this whole Johnny Depp, Amber Heard stuff. And if you want to know more, let me know and we'll do another deep dive. But yeah, I'll see you all later. Bye.